Hey everyone, I'm Travis Wright, and you're listening to I'm a Fan Of, your show for music, comedy, and more. As always, if you are a musician, a comedian, or just someone that does something interesting, please reach out to me on Instagram at TravisCanListen. You can find me on Facebook at I'm a Fan Of, or you can reach out to me through the website at I'mAFanOfPod.com. This episode, we have Coffee Pot Films. If you're watching YouTube, I'm showing the latest DVD that they released, The Mystery Murder. It is a comedy horror genre short film that they did. And it's really funny. I watched it on YouTube. Go check it out. I'll have a link in the show notes. It's 15 minutes. It's really funny. I was not always a big fan of the horror genre, but it's coming around on me, and this is something that's definitely swaying me in that direction. I wanted Coffee Pot on the show, though, because I discovered them locally. I discovered them. They've been out there. I didn't discover them, but I found out about them because they're doing lots of really good music videos for bands around here. And that is what caught my eye, is they're doing very high-quality music videos for musicians. And then I go to their Instagram, all that stuff, and realize, oh, no, they're a film company. They're doing more than just that. So I was really excited when they decided they wanted to come on the show with me and chat about everything, and I could learn more about this company, the collective of people that run it, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. This is Coffee Pot Films.
The I'm a Fan Of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
All right, Anthony and Miguel from Coffee Pot Films, welcome.
Thank you.
We were talking a little bit because I know you guys primarily from the music video world. You know, I've seen you work with, I guess, Mean Motor Scooter for sure, and I believe it was Phantom Mellow also.
Absolutely, several times.
Yeah. And but it seems like you're just this much bigger group that I didn't realize, because once I reached out, you're like, well, we'll have to see who can. We've got, like, is it like 15 people? Or how many?
There's 8 of us officially members of Coffee Pot, and then we have a lot of folks that come help us out that we consider family of Coffee Pot as well.
Oh my gosh.
Some that have been helping us out for a while. But yeah, no, there's 8 of us officially, and we all kind of play various roles in the crew. We all definitely come together creatively.
So what is the eight different roles of the primary people then?
I mean, really, it kind of switches up. Like, I am mostly direct and produce and I'm behind the camera kind of stuff, but not on the technical end. I'm know shockingly little about camera and certain
What does that
things
mean? You just like frame up shots?
That means that, yeah, exactly. You know, I handle a lot of things creatively, but that's where we all come in as well. Like, no matter who's putting fingers to keyboards and actually writing the script, once we get on set, everybody's throwing in ideas at that point. Miguel started recently directing some of the music videos as well.
Okay.
Ian is our editor, though. Nobody else really touches anything.
Okay.
So he does all of our editing. Ryan does most of our lighting, and Joe as well. Those are 2 of our guys, but they also write and direct as well.
And act. They act too.
So it's definitely like an all hands on deck.
It kind of really is. Adam and Mikey are 2 of our stronger actors and primarily do that, but they also throw in a bunch creatively as well. So I almost want to put co-written on every single project that we do, because everybody throws in something.
Y'all, I can already
Greg
say,
directs as well.
y'all are better people than me, because the thought of working with 8+ people, like, there's no way I could do it.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I love my setup being like a one-man show. I control all my stuff. I do everything I want to do. And it's like, I really value the input of others. Like, I know that that's important. But then when it comes down to actually working with 7 or 8 other people, knowing you're depending on them for all this stuff, it's so... How do you guys even manage that?
Well, it actually helps a lot. I mean, you know, there's always a thing where sometimes people say don't work with your friends too closely on certain things like this, but we are. That's kind of this is our friend family. Like, you know, we go on trips together, and this is just what we enjoy doing. So it allows for some bickering that we know won't go too far to get to where we want to go. But we're also not all on every single project. So having 8 people allows us. It's the only reason we've been able to pump out music videos at the rate that we have. Because, you know, Greg will go off and direct this project with Ian while Miguel and I are concentrating on something else entirely, or if several of the guys, everybody's got day jobs. So if some people aren't available for a shoot, then it allows us to, you know, kind of substitute in and out. But overall, we just make sure we stay in communication with each other, and we make sure everybody's heard. And
it sounds so easy, though, right?
It
sounds so easy to do it that way.
It wasn't always easy. There's been times that a lot of us, like half of us, will be out of the loop and confused, like, what's going on.
Yeah.
But I credit a lot to Anthony. I mean, his leadership and the way he communicates with everybody keeps everybody grounded and together, and he listens to everything, so it's not just one person running everything. People might think that.
How did it start? Who was the initial, let's get this thing going?
You know, it's kind of weird. It goes all the way back to when a few of us were waiting tables, Greg, Ian, and a couple of former members that we had, Jared Hollenbeck and Kurt Pogue. we all worked at Outback Steakhouse together.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Irving.
There you go.
And we were coming up with this waiter comedy together, and so we started having writing meetings. And then,
Wait. You said you were coming up with waiter comedy?
yeah, it was a cartoon waiter comedy, sub material that definitely would not have aged well now. So like all that, we never ended up doing anything with it. But we were liking what we were developing, and it was more about getting together and being creative and just kind of starting. 'Cause I was 21 at that time, but then I made the decision to go off to film school in Florida. And so when I left, they continued the meetings, and then Ian and Greg and Michael Rake, who are all still 3 in the group now, started a sketch group based around that called Sunday Cracker, and they were just pumping out stuff, and I was getting super jealous while I was in college. I was really proud of and happy they were doing it, but I knew that as soon as I moved back, 'cause I knew I was coming back, that I was going to want to be involved immediately. And so when I came back, I was kind of a dick about it, and I didn't like the name. And I was like, look, I'm going to be heavily involved in this, and so I want to change the name. And Ian came up with the new name, and then his cousin designed our logo, and then Coffee Pot started from there. So I guess the original 4 of like Coffee Pot were myself, Ian, Greg, and Michael Rake. Greg Gadberry, I haven't said his last name
The
yet.
Waiters at Outback.
Yeah, exactly. And then slowly we added like Joe Bannister, who's a heavy contributor as well. Moved. He was a college classmate of mine, and he moved down here and from Florida and joined in with the group. And then we added Miguel, and then Ryan Sir way later on, and then Adam Blanton as well. Adam joined pretty early. But yeah, and that's how we came to the 8 of us. And we've had a couple people slide in and out during that time, and yeah.
So what you said, you keep glossing over the waiter comedy, but that's the beginning of all this, really, right? So I waited tables as well. So when you say it wouldn't age well, is that because we all know just how like offensive and raunchy waiting tables can be?
Kind of, yeah. And we were younger too, and this was in the mid-thousands and stuff.
Yeah, of
so
course.
we were,
We were all saying words and talking about things that we definitely would not now,
right?
Because we've learned and we've grown. But yeah,
well, and that came about from a script that I was writing. They were helping me kind of get over my own self. I was writing a script before Waiting came out, and I was only 20 years old.
You mean
when
the
I was
movie
writing that
Waiting,
script.
right?
The movie
Yeah,
Waiting.
yeah.
So I still have a vendetta against that movie because I don't like it anyway. It's not just a vendetta. I don't think it's a funny movie.
Everyone would talk to me. They're like, "Is that exactly what it's like?" And it's like they kind of brushed on what each area of waiting tables is like, but then it's got that very cheesy Hollywood flavor on it.
They went very post-millennium National Lampoons with it, which is not the good National Lampoons. The one that I was writing, I was going more for a Dazed and Confused vibe, like just a window into life and the day of kind of situation. It would have still had a little bit of ridiculousness in there,
but it would have been just so, because everything in Waiting it's all outrageous,
all over the top.
Everything is outrageous. Yeah, and it's like there's enough real life interesting stories that you can pull from waiting tables, from just any one restaurant you worked at.
Absolutely.
You know, that you don't have to cheese it up at all. You don't have to lie. You can I could just talk, if we were drinking right now and swapping waiting stories, each of us would have 5 where you'd be like, oh my God, I've never heard that one.
Absolutely.
I can't believe it. And it is one of those where everyone was like, you must love that movie. I was like, I mean, it's fine. It's funny.
I had a lot of waiter friends that loved it. Some that worked with me at Outback that I had arguments with because I was like, no, mine's better.
I think it's really funny.
I think we've had arguments about this before.
Really?
Miguel and I agree on a lot. But
Well, I
there's
like
a few movies.
Ryan Reynolds' humor. So
No, he's incredible.
Yeah.
It's not against Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
It's
and,
it's kind of like what he's saying is,
No, I get what he's saying. Yeah.
what would work now is if they made that now and turned it into like a 2-season HBO series. You could actually make it better.
Okay.
Right?
If you treated it more like a party down kind of vibe.
Because it's like fitting something into like an hour and a half, right? That's
Right.
however long it was. I mean, that's always hard. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's too many good stories.
I'm sure we all had the manager who was like hooked on cocaine and dating the girl that was way too young for him.
Oh, dude, that was my on the border manager. Well,
on
he
the
was
border. I worked for Chili's, so you were also part of the Brinker family.
Did the Brinker thing over in Las Colinas. Pretty much all in Irving.
Yeah. Oh my God. I loved waiting tables. It was good, but I'm so happy to not be waiting tables anymore.
Yeah, it was hard. Outback became a cult. Like when I left On the Border, I was a senior member of the staff at like a year and a half deep. When I got to Outback and I started asking, like, how long have you been here? Like 4 years, 5 years. Like everybody was just like lifers and wanted to be there because it was just it was a weird environment. I haven't had another. Yeah, and since then I've been in the film business after I got out of film school, so I haven't had another job like that since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just such a weird environment where I knew I needed to go, but I didn't want to leave at the same time. Like cried like my last night and stuff like that.
And I think now I romanticize it. I think back to like oh, I could get like a bartending job on the side. It would be so much fun. But you forget all the shit that really annoyed you about it.
Right. I don't do nights anymore either. I'm not a big partier or drinker.
No.
Like I like doing things morning, mid-afternoon, and then
You're a brunch guy.
Yeah.
One of my friends was asking me if they should go to the early or late comedy show, and I was like, early. I was like, get the
everything
laughs
early.
in, get to bed on time. I was like, let's absolutely do the early one.
Me and my girlfriend saw Avatar 2 at 10 a.m. We were like,
10 a.m. So y'all got out at like 4 in the afternoon.
But just about.
Yeah.
You know, the sun was kind of still a little in the sky.
Did it hold up? Was it good?
It was great. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
And I'm not a big fan of the first one.
No, really.
I thought the first one was a little overrated, just a tad. It was good, but whatever. But this one, I was really into. I cared, and I've seen it twice already. So.
Dude, sitting in a theater for 3 hours.
Yeah, I know.
I can do that, but it's like, can I get an intermission just to pee?
Right,
I just need to pee, and I don't want to miss anything. Because I'm already, every movie I see now, I'm timing it. Like by the end of it, it's like legs crossed, squeezing as tight as I can. It's like, just make it to the credits.
See, and back in the day, it was no sweat whatsoever. I saw Two Towers in the theater because I was 17 when that came out.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that age. But I saw that 4 times in 1 week. You know, and that's a solid 3 hours. Like, spent 12 hours of my life that week in the theater.
Have you ever gone to do a marathon viewing of any series?
Not in the theater, no.
No, I've always wanted to do that. I don't know what I would want to watch, but I would love to spend like a full day at a theater.
I spent a full day in the theater, but not to watch.
Like, you know what I mean? Like going through like a Lord of the Rings or something.
Right, that's what I would do it with. If I were to do it with anything, it would be that.
Yeah, because you really get the full effect of like the big screen, the sound.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. That's the best.
Plus, those movies are just...
They're great,
awesome.
right?
They're incredible. Like, probably... I say that, and whatever people think about the MCU, those are two of the best casted entities I've ever seen in my entire life. Like everybody is whether you've read the book or not, like everybody is absolutely perfect. I've read the books after I saw the movies, and even going back through it, I'm like, oh my god, every single role, like especially Sean Astin for Samwise, just like, oh, perfect. That's just it just nailed it.
Yeah, I talk about that with my wife all the time because I'm horrible with names, by the way. But the German, he's not German, I think he's Austrian. But he played the German guy in Inglourious Bastards. He's the very neat.
Christoph Waltz?
Yes, him. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking
He's
about,
amazing.
Everyone's like, you're an amazing actor. He's like, I just get casted well. He's like, the people who cast me know what I bring to the table, and that's all it is. And he went on this long thing about how important casting is versus, an amazing actor. And now it's made me look at all these roles differently. When you see something great, you're like, man, so it really was the person who said, you're going to be great for this character.
Yeah.
They're almost the real genius behind it.
Yeah.
It's because if you do that well, the actor, they have to try, but it's almost effortless for them.
Well, and it's funny that you say, because I'm watching, I don't know if either one of you have seen The Offer on Paramount Plus yet. Okay,
No,
I'm 7 episodes deep into that, and it's about them and everything they had to go through making The Godfather. And just the arguments, Francis Ford Coppola, like, swearing by an unknown Al Pacino, and having to, them having to go for bat for him, like, really hard, including, trading contracts because he was already contracted to do this comedy, and they're like, well, let's trade. We'll give you De Niro, and you give us Pacino. Like, he just wanted Pacino that bad. Wow. And the same thing with Marlon Brando, to where, like, they went behind the studio's back to contact Brando, because the studio's like, no way, and even if we do, he's difficult to work with, and he's going to cost X amount of money. We can't do that with this.
And now you couldn't imagine anything else.
You really can't. You really can't. And I saw that movie late in life. I didn't see it till, like, a few years ago, which for a cinephile is, like, that was the biggest hole in my resume.
Yeah. Well, and, man, it's... When you think about all the unknown actors who crush roles, right? When they're originally unknown, and then of course they come on to be big names.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize the importance of maybe not knowing a whole lot about someone who's performing.
Yeah.
Because unless you're really, really, really good, we know so much about you that then it becomes like we watched. Have you seen The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey?
Yes.
Okay. And it's like the movie's okay. I like the movie. But the whole time I was thinking, I don't buy this half English, half British speak that he's doing.
Right.
It totally takes me out. And it's like, I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I don't know who made those choices. But hearing him be like, well, old chap, and it's like, but an American in England wouldn't talk that way.
Right.
We would just talk like an American. It's just those little choices where it's like, he might not have been the person for this role.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Whereas on the flip side, in that same movie, Colin Farrell playing Coach.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. It's Colin Farrell's I didn't even see Colin Farrell. I just saw this dude. It's like that ability to disappear is just, it's really intriguing.
People sleep on him with that.
So good. And it was such a small role in the movie. And it's like, I could watch a whole movie about this fucking guy. Can we just do this?
Same thing with the Penguin and
Penguin,
the new Batman movie.
I thought he was the best.
I haven't
Yeah,
watched
he was
it.
the best part of it. Like, and Colin Farrell once again just absolutely disappears.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few guys like him and Gary Oldman and probably Daniel Day-Lewis too, who are just some of the great chameleons of the acting world. And like, I don't even know Christian Bale too. I don't even know what their real voice sounds like most of the time.
True.
I don't even know if they know what their real voice sounds like anymore.
Idris Elba is like that.
Yeah, we
It
just
was
watched
like-
Beast.
It was like years. I was like, he's British? Or
Right. He's amazing. Honestly, he's another unsung hero too.
He was in
Like,
The Office.
Yeah, we were just watching.
Well, in his American accent in The Office, he's like, I thought this guy is from, Illinois or something. Like, he sounds exactly like an American. He's not overselling. He's not like, I want a burger. Like,
Right. No, Brits, aside from Gerard Butler, Brits and Australians do way better American accents than we do British or Australian accents. Now, Gerard Butler, like, literally, I can do his accent. And, like, everything
He's
else,
like,
it just sounds like marbles in his mouth whenever he's
He does
trying.
sound
like,
very-
He's a good actor.
he's
but
like, just
like
make
him,
it grizzled.
yeah. But it always
Him
just
and
comes...
Charlie Hunnam.
Oh yeah, his
Yeah,
American accent's
yeah,
terrible too, man. Like he's okay. Like Green Street Hooligans was his best role too, though. That was way early on for him.
On Idris Elba, did you see the movie where it was like an all-black Western, The Harder They Fall?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
seen
It's
it.
still
So
on my-
it's really good, and he's like a. I'm trying to think what movie to compare it to because it's a Western, but there's just like a ton of black actors, and there's definitely like more of a cool factor to the script than just like a
Is
Western
it like
robbery.
the new
Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, is it like that?
Kind of like that, yeah.
Okay.
And he's like a bad criminal, and they're doing like train heist and stuff to get him out.
Yeah.
And he not only has like an incredible American accent, but it's like an incredible country Southern accent. And you're just like, dude, even within our own accent, you're able to dive into these dialects. So
He can
well.
do anything. I think it's criminal that he's not the
Yeah.
next James Bond.
Yeah, I
like
thought
as soon as I
that was
heard,
a done deal.
I thought it was for a while too. And the second that I ever heard that it was even a rumor, I was like, oh well, that needs to happen. He needs
would
to
be
James.
incredible.
He would be incredible.
And it's like all these big companies, they want to push a diversity aspect, right? And there's a way to do that. He would have been a perfect move for that because he has the credentials. He just happens to be a black guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're not even having to sell the diversity.
No, he's
It's
just
just no. We found an incredible guy. That's
he's just
all it is.
amazing.
Yeah. And I can't believe they did sleep on that. Did they say who they picked?
I heard somewhere about was it Taylor Johnson? What's his name?
Taron Egerton. Are we? Wait.
No.
I don't even know who
Oh.
that is.
From Bullet Train.
Oh no, Kick Ass.
Yeah, him.
Bullet Train? Which character on Bullet Train was it?
He was one of the brothers.
Not the twins, but the
Yeah.
the two brothers who were trying to kidnap the guy to bring him back to the Russian.
Yeah, he was
guy.
the white
yeah.
dude, and
Oh.
then Brian
From
Tyree Henry
Godzilla,
was the other
Kick-Ass,
guy.
yeah,
He's
Kick-Ass.
good. He's good.
I saw an article where they were thinking about him.
I mean, look, he would
Idris.
probably be great because I was hesitant on Daniel Craig the same way I would be hesitant about this guy.
He was
Yeah.
amazing.
And I think Daniel Craig was great.
He was
He
fantastic.
knocked it out.
So the guy, he'd probably be good, like, because in Bullet Train, even just the way he's like walking, just his little shoulder swagger, where it's like nobody walks like that in real life. If I saw you walking down the street like that, I'd go, God, what a douchebag.
Right.
But when he's on the Bullet Train, I'm like, of course he walks like this.
Well, yeah, you got to have
Yeah,
some
he was
like
good in it.
it's almost
Yeah.
like a pro wrestler flair that you have to have with some characters sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like John Wayne wouldn't just light a match; he strikes it all the way across like the edge of the desk or something. You know, like it just depends on what era and what genre you're working in. That's very
Who else
important.
did you
Is
hear?
knowing what movie you're making, knowing what you are doing, and like because like a movie can be seemingly really silly and you not give it the credit for how smart it truly is because it nailed what it was going for.
Yeah.
Like it knew what it was. Like
Yeah.
I give so much credit to
yes.
movies that just know what they are and dive into that vibe and achieve what they're going for.
What do you think they pay someone like Sandra Bullock to have such a small role in that movie, where you're essentially just doing a voiceover and then you're on camera for like 15 seconds?
It just depends.
Do you think she's like, I want $30 million?
I actually think she's cool. I think she didn't ask for that much.
You know, it depends. It depends
Because
on.
Brad Pitt was in it.
Yeah, but what would you guess? Because I have no idea what people make,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, she's super famous, but it's got to be really easy. She probably recorded everything in a day,
Yeah, probably it's in the like maybe a 7-figure range, but I would say more in the six, like somewhere.
Still.
Yeah, because it all depends on
Like 5
relationships with studios.
Probably like 5.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say 5.
you just never really know. Like it
Yeah.
just depends on how much she wants to do it versus how much they're trying to get her. Like, no, we really want her for this. It's like a piece of music can cost somebody a shitload of money, and the studio's like, no, you can't have that. No, the director, I need this for this scene. That's the only thing that's going to work. And it's the same thing with a talent like Big Lebowski. They weren't going to have a voiceover or narrator at all if Sam Elliott said no to that. Like that was only for Sam Elliott. So it just depends on the relationship relationship with the studio, and like maybe she cut him a deal, or if they were really coming after her, then she might have raked him over the coals a little bit.
Yeah. A moment ago, you were talking about how difficult it is because of just the overall artistic vision and executing that in movies. Now, when you guys are doing something like a music video, for instance, we'll start on that just because I know some of the music videos you've done. Do y'all approach it as, how do you get the artistic vision? Do you ask the band what they want to do? Did you say, hey, I've listened to it, here's what I'm thinking? Is it a mix on that? How do you do it to where you're both going to be happy?
We always ask the band first if they have anything in mind for something. Sometimes we may try to talk them out of that if we just don't think that it'll work cinematically, because for us that's part of what you're coming to us for, whether you agree with us or not, and then we can go separate directions, or we can compromise and work something out. But we're going to give you our honest opinion of if we think that is going to cut, and if it's something that we think we can realistically pull off with the minuscule amount of money that is involved with all of these.
The only video stuff I do, you're looking at it right now, right? Like, this is my video equipment. I have one other camera that I use, and everyone, including myself, before I even just started doing this podcast, I have an audio engineering background, so the audio side I understood really well. The video side is all just YouTube research and figure stuff out, and it is overwhelming the cost that it takes to just get the basic level of quality,
Right.
Because it's not even the camera, right? It's the stands, the lights, the cards, the storage, everything. It's like when I started, buying SD cards and stuff, you're just like, what do you mean it's already fucking full?
Yeah.
It's full already?
I just bought it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like nowadays, it's like somebody approached me about filming a comedy set for them. And I told them, I was like, hey, I'm pretty new to this. I was like, I don't know what you're trying to do with it, but I am learning a lot right now, so I may not be the best to go to.
Yeah.
And I was like, but tell me what you want to do. And he's like, well, I'm going to do like 4 shows. I'd like it all to be done in like 4K, 60 frames per second. And I was just thinking like, yeah, dude, I don't even have storage for that. Like, I couldn't even film, that's going to end up being like 5 hours worth of 4K footage. I don't think my laptop can process all of that.
Yeah.
That's true too.
And so you start realizing the barrier to entry on this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do y'all even fund what you're doing? Do you rent most of your equipment, or how does it work?
A lot of favors.
Yeah,
Really?
we've been lucky.
We myself and Joe Bannister and Ryan Sir, we all are freelancers in the area within the primarily commercial, but just in the film world overall here. So I'm a first assistant director on stuff, so that means that I set the schedules for things, and basically I'm the pinpoint of communication on set for everybody to know where they're going and what they're doing. And every department has their own keys, but it's kind of up to me to help make sure all those keys are tied together and know what's going on within each other.
That sounds very stressful already.
Yeah, no, it is. The joke is the 80s have the shortest
Yeah, I know what
lifespan
you're
of
talking
everybody on set.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But luckily, Joe and Ryan are both lighting guys. Joe specifically more toward the grip world, which I guess a lot of people don't know what grips are, but like you see Best Boy Grip and all that kind of stuff on the credits. They handle all of like the stands and the rigging for things. So if there's things that need to be rigged to cars, and they'll come out and use do all the flags and the big 12 bys and 20 bys, like cut light and diffuse light.
Yeah, it's all the stuff that
and
matters so much that you don't understand matters.
Exactly. And then Ryan does more of, he's usually our gaffer, which now Ryan has wanted to step more into an acting role. So we've been having one of our other buddies, Justo Garcia, come out with some of his gear, which was also prime, because Ryan had a relationship with the rental house here, and we still have that relationship, but it's a little different when he's not going to get the gear himself and stuff. So we had to punt a little bit and ask our buddy Justo if he was interested, and he's like, as long as I can use my gear and play with my new toys and stuff. So it's a lot of favors. And same thing with camera. We cycle through a couple of different directors of photography. If we're shooting it ourselves, then we can just shoot on either Joe or Mikey's Sony A7s. If it's like a sketch, or if depending on what the band, what kind of look they want. Sometimes it just works. Like Uncle Toasty and Mean Motor Scooter, the first one, and the first Phantomello, we shot on A7s.
The Uncle Toasty one, that was the one. Was it Butcher of Burundi?
Yeah.
Where you're like filming at their studio.
Yeah.
And okay.
And that was an Ian show. Ian is incredibly talented, and so, like when Ian doesn't ask for our help in the prep work on a video, I know he's got it under control, and it's all just in his head. Like when he can shoot it himself, because he does all the editing and stuff too. Like you can just okay, if he's not asking for help on it, then I don't need to worry about it, because he's just got it under control.
He knows what he wants. And
That's fun. Well, what made both of y'all want to actually get into film in the first place?
Just love it, baby. Just love movies.
Yeah,
Movies in general. So I know we keep talking about music videos, but you guys are definitely moving also into film. That's what you want to do,
Well,
right?
I mean, really, that's where
what
it started more. It was there. The music video thing just kind of happened.
I remember Joe from Mean Motor Scooter and Cloudland Studios. Him and I were working on a project where we just record bands with one single microphone and one camera and just kind of do everything in one shot.
Okay, did y'all do one for Phantom Mellow for Shark Attack?
Yeah.
Okay, I saw
we
that.
did.
I saw
We
that.
did. And again, like I don't really have a lot of knowledge in the film stuff, so it's like I was just running through how I could maybe do it. And I ended up doing it all with like an iPhone and a moment lens.
It still looked good though.
And I love the way we were doing it. I felt like it kind of worked. But he was like, yeah, I was thinking about hitting up Coffee Pot Films. And I was like, okay. And at that time, I didn't know anything about y'all. And the first thing I found was very, very old, like black and white sketch stuff.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
We had a couple of them.
Yeah. And I remember talking to Joe. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't see anything that says, like, they work with bands or anything. I was like, if you want to go with this, it's fine. I was like, but I don't really know. He's like, what are you talking about? And then he sent me some other stuff. I was like, oh, okay, all right. And it's fun to see that growth, even in short times, right? Because even this stuff, it's like, I'm going to look back on all of it and go, God, all that looked shitty. If I'd known this about, like you're saying, lighting. And
Oh, yeah, dude.
And it's like how quickly you can grow from it all when you're actually doing it.
Well,
so you guys started in film though, right?
We did.
Doing skits and like short stuff.
That was it. It was mostly sketch comedy stuff. Because in the beginning, we were still learning ourselves. Joe and I were production assistants in the business. We didn't know Ryan yet, who came in with a lot of lighting knowledge afterward. Joe and I knew what we learned in film school, but we were still, very much experimenting with the application of that knowledge. And also, just if you want to be a good free throw shooter, you got to go out and take free throws too. So sometimes you don't realize that like not everybody is Paul Thomas Anderson or just a savant at something, and you need to go out and actually practice and see why does this feel weird when it cuts this way, and it's watching movies and things in a different way as well to grow in that. But yeah, we were shooting on mini DV cameras in the beginning because when we started, this is 2000.
What's a mini DV camera?
It's like just a little Sony handheld like mini DV tape.
Little
Because this is in 2009. I mean, iPhones were still fresh on the scene when we started doing some of that
far
stuff.
back.
Yeah, no, we started.
See, and then that makes me feel shit for even judging it, because and that's part of the problem.
man.
Like you don't know what went into making stuff,
Right. Well, most of those shoots were like 4 or 5 hours tops. Like we were still getting like guys like I like there was always a classic joke that I was always pissed off at everybody because people wouldn't learn their lines and stuff like that. There was
waiting on people.
Yeah. He was late a lot. Greg was late a lot.
There was
but
one where like, well, you do it. I'm like, I don't know the script, but okay.
Yeah, no, there was one sketch where it was supposed to be Greg and Adam playing roles. We were shooting 4 sketches in one weekend. It was a big weekend for us, and this was day 2 and our first sketch of day 2, and we're all waiting at the park for Greg and Adam to show up. And I call him, and Adam, I think, was walking into a movie, and then Greg was going to do something else. I'm like, where the fuck are you guys? And like, I'm just over there losing my shit. And luckily, Miguel and Ian.
Welcome to Hollywood, baby.
Yeah, luckily it was a slapstick sketch, so it didn't involve a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
And so Miguel and Ian were there, like they were fucking supposed to as crew members, and they stepped into the roles. And I'm going to say it was stronger because of it.
I always wanted to be in something.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing I was in, right?
Yeah. No, or was it the PSAs? Either way, Miguel has grown exponentially as an actor since then.
Even you talking about the production, even our acting has gotten way
better.
And to your earlier point about you don't know what you don't know. You can learn everything theoretically from a film school, from online, wherever you want, but until you actually do it, it's a whole other thing. So it's like lighting. I've become fascinated with lighting because I didn't realize how much it affects
everything
what you're doing, and it's like, man, lighting is key. And then you realize how good the people are that do it well and how long it took them to get that good.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because they just look at a scene and they go, oh, no, the way this is on your face, we gotta adjust all this. And when you're watching on YouTube and you're like, all of a sudden it's amazing. And you're like, fuck, I didn't see any of that.
I get like that all the time.
And so like all those old skits you guys are talking about, the acting, the setup, everything, that's what's so crucial about all that. It's like you have to fuck it up so much to know, oh, that's bad. That's
exactly
what's better. And until you start doing it, it's like you'll never be good at anything.
Well, and you don't even know unless you just come with your own style. Like, oh, like I just know this is my style. You don't even really know what your style is. Like, I don't want to force a style on myself. So it's like we're all trying to like play with our writing and play with when we are getting directing chances to like find our style. And I'm learning some things about myself through some of the music videos, specifically one Phantom Mellow, one Space Prom. Like I learned that I like a lot of dolly movements and David Fincher style, low key lighting and stuff like that, and started applying it to other things. And now some of the guys make fun of me because I'm like getting really into split screens and music videos too. I'm like, when applied properly, I enjoy them and they're fun. So, but you know, you're just kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't, especially with comedy, which is where that's what we have a pretty big middle part of our Venn diagram within our 8 people of the group of where our sense of humors come together, and then the parts that are on the outskirts of the Venn diagram where we're different, they also become strengths because you know that keeps us from getting too stale as we progress. You know, with more of these guys directing now and taking the helm on some things. Now their little side humor that's not part of that big middle part of the Venn diagram is going to come through, and then it helps to even within one sketch like our short film. Like Miguel came in with several bits of his own dialogue on the day. He was like, "Hey, can I say this?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's hilarious. Go for it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating. I've become really obsessed with it because normally when I like if I love something, like I love comedy, but I'd never want to try stand-up comedy because I don't want to. I don't want to pull that curtain back, right? And I'm not saying like if I tried, I'd be really great. But
no, it's just hard.
Yeah, like I kind of like only being a viewer of it, and I was really worried because I love movies so much that I was worried even learning just a little bit about like working cameras and stuff would ruin a lot of shit for me, and and. It's done the opposite. Like with movies, now I really love going like, oh, wow.
Yeah, you appreciate it more.
I just rewatched Forrest Gump. I've been trying to watch it once a year because I love it.
I still love Forrest Gump.
And the scene where he's at the Black Panther party and Jenny gets hit and he's going in slow motion across the room to punch him. It's like for the first time ever, I noticed the way they lit that with like half of his face pitch black so that all you saw was his one wide open crazy eye in pure, and I was like, I always knew he was going at this guy in a rage, but I never saw how much effort went into just getting that one couple of second slow motion shot where you're like, God, that was so, like, they probably spent a lot of time going, we need these lights here, this lights here, and Tom, make sure you're nailing this mark here because it's going to be right here while you're sprinting across the room. It's like
and what a lot of people don't realize, because especially with something like that back in the day, you're talking about 1994, so you're definitely still shooting on film. And when you're shooting slow motion, it becomes a whole nother thing. Even if you've got like your lighting setup going, you need more light when you're shooting at high speed like that. And then also you're talking about an era where the focus pullers, first assistant camera for anybody that doesn't know out there. Is somebody who actually pulls the focus. The camera operator does not pull focus himself. And in some situations when you're talking about like, news stuff and everything, like, yes, but like when you're talking about feature films and TV shows, you got somebody specifically just on focus,
and like
which is its whole thing. So Tom Hanks does have to nail that mark, that focus puller without a monitor, just by taking measurements and watching where he's walking, has to hit that mark as well. It's a lot that goes into a shot like that.
That's a ton of what I watch, or what I watch a lot of in a movie now is noticing the choice of focus, right? Like, and for people who don't know, it's like the more high end these lenses get, you have these ranges where, like, if you stand a foot closer to the camera or a foot further away, you're totally out of focus.
Right.
And so, these people are standing in a spot where you're totally focused in and everything else behind you is kind of blurry for whatever
depth of field,
artistic choice, right? So knowing that someone's sprinting across a room, and like you said, somebody's pulling the focus on that, trying to keep him in focus through this entire thing with no screen to do it, you're just like, fuck, man, people are really good at what they do.
It's a whole thing.
And that's one tiny little person on the set.
Yeah, and you need multiple rehearsals for that because the gaffer and the DP need to see the shot multiple times to make sure that his movement through that lighting works as well and that everything is properly hidden. You'll see stuff still pop up. If you really pay attention, you'll see a lot of mistakes in major movies because the rule was also always, like, the big thing, like Martin Scorsese's cigarette continuity gets brought up a lot. Like, if you pay attention to any scene, if it's conversational and it's a long scene where people are smoking, that cigarette is all over the fucking place.
Like the length of the ash.
The length of the ash. Like Nicholson in The Departed will have like a cigarette that's down to the nubbin, and then it'll cut away and cut back to him, just like a real quick frame, and it'll be halfway done, and then back full on the next frame. Like, it's insane. But the rule is to always choose, if you can, and it's not something completely egregious, to choose whatever the best performance is in the edit. So that does become a choice a lot. Even in the dumbest of our sketches, we've sat there and gone through every single take to try to piece together what the best performances of things are.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, because you can imagine, like I said, now on these small scales, I'm learning how much things cost, the time, the effort, all of that. So could you imagine them going like, "Oh, the cigarette was too long, guys. Let's start over."
reshoot it.
Absolutely.
It's like the actor being like, "Fuck you, man. I don't give
Too
a
much
shit about your
time and
cigarette."
money, you know, and like
Yeah.
that in film school, I remember in one of our first lighting classes, they told us we're about to ruin movies for you forever. And for me, it really didn't. Like you were saying, and like he was saying, I've grown more appreciative of what it is. Like I become less and less. I'm already accused a lot of having very forgiving taste in movies and just liking too many things that I fill in gaps and plot holes myself in my head for the artist. I'm like, well, this is probably what they meant. But I also, I guess I've grown more appreciation having done it ourselves now of what it takes to accomplish and how many hands are in the pot, and like this probably isn't this person's fault. This probably isn't this person's fault. So especially if it's like 2, 3, even 4, 5 things about a movie that I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to let it ruin the whole experience for me if I feel like that they nailed 90% of it. Because even with, you know, all the professional talent in the world and like the biggest budget in the world, like sometimes that even just overcomplicates things even further. It's hard. You got to.
It amazes me that anything gets done. Ever.
Yeah, it's a
I mean,
big
seriously.
coordination. Then you got guys like George Romero. That's part of the reason why they just chose to stay in the indie world for basically their entire career. John Carpenter, who's my favorite director, was always kind of like that as well. But some of those guys, they just never wanted to be a part of the machine, and they wanted to make sure that they had that 70s decade of the influence style control over their movies. That's the only era where directors have had like complete power on set. And you know, it's hard because I think about that too. If we were to make our pipe dream and get to where we want to be, I'm like, man, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of us being like a Broken Lizard style group, you know, like Super Troopers. That's kind of how we equate a lot of things. You know, we all like to be in stuff too, but like, yeah, it's hard. I'd say we'd never make it to that level. Hopefully, we can.
What
at
is
some
the
point have
pipe
that
dream,
choice? Man, just to make movies, features. Yeah, that's what we really want to do. And for us to be able to all spread our wings in our own way throughout that, like come together and do projects and stuff and have the umbrella of Coffee Pot be something bigger, like a real deal production company where we can throw money to other artists for stuff. But where Miguel can go off and make this super dramatic piece if he wants, and then I can go off and make this horror movie if I want to. And then we come back together on these projects and help each other produce stuff, you know, like, and still just, you know, I don't know, maintain the friendships throughout.
I talked to a lot of artists about DFW and what their opinion is of what holds it back, keeping it from being like an artistic town. Like, you know, obviously East and West Coast have a lot of film completely locked down.
Yes.
But when you think about the resources that DFW has, there's no reason a lot of that couldn't be here. But what is y'all's opinion on what makes it difficult to become a film company in DFW?
Man.
What are the things where you're like, I wish we had access to this or these things? This would make stuff easier.
We're outing ourselves a little bit, but personally, and like we have been talking to a few people about it personally, I think what's held us back the most of becoming like a legit company is the fact that we are pretty much all of us fall under the creative category. Like, so I mean, I handle a lot of our, like, as far as like hiring the crews and stuff, but we're not dealing with like massive amount of money and legalities and like, you know, a lot of big releases and dealing with SAG contracts and a lot of these various things that I unfortunately don't really even have the interest in diving into. So we needed somebody in our camp that has that mindset really, and so I'd say that's a lot of it. We've held ourselves back some too. You know, we've gone through periods where we didn't make as much as we wanted to because people were having kids. Like Joe and myself are the only two that don't have kids in the group now, and most everybody else's kids. I mean, Nathaniel, his oldest son, is the oldest out of all the kids in the group, but a lot of them are, you know, like 7 years old and younger and stuff. So it's just with day jobs, all of us getting busy and stuff. So it's a lot of holding ourselves back just by not being as productive as we could during certain time periods. These past 3 years have definitely been some of our most productive out of like all this time that we've been doing it.
And the reason for that, I think that we've been more productive now. I feel like everybody's on the same page for once. Like there's no doubt anymore. Like we believe in ourselves and in Coffee Pot now.
Well, it
there
definitely
was times
seems
where people were like, we're just shooting sketches, which probably why they missed certain times or they were late because they probably weren't taking it that serious at the time.
I was trying to convince people to.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been. Yeah. I remember that one time I tried to create a website and not everybody was on page, and I was like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But now everybody's all in.
And
yeah. There's a different level of dedication.
It does seem like over the last couple of years, y'all have hit another level. And I couldn't, as an outsider, I was like, I don't know what made them switch gears, but you can see a bigger effort to
I think it was the
pull that a little closer, by the way.
Sorry,
it's okay.
I think it was the short film. Like
which short film?
Mystery Murder.
Mystery
It's
Murder.
the only official short film that we've done so far. Everything else we would consider.
Once we did that, and the first.
Let's hold up this awesome poster while we have it here.
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome.
Once we did that and the first Mean Motor Scooter video,
Yeah.
I think
Was the first Mean Motor Scooter Gutter Boy Blues?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So when we shot that and everybody saw that in the group, we were like, wow. And it finally became more fun than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that's why everybody's all on board now.
I think Gutter Boy Blues was the one that Joe sent me to be like, dude, they did this. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that
because I had
video's-
seen that video, but I didn't make the coffee pot connection.
It was amazing, right? Like
It was good.
The way
There's
it looked,
nothing I would have
yeah.
changed about it, you know, because it was exactly what I would imagine for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it was very. We kind of just lucked into that really because Ian, you know, he's Ian McKinnon, our editor. He
that's why he's the editor.
Right. Well, he's in a band called Garage Barrage as well. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but he has a relationship with Mean Motor Scooter, and so Joe Tacky of Mean Motor Scooter produced Garage Barage's album, and so in trade,
Gotcha.
Ian was like, "Hey, are y'all cool if we do this for free for them in trade?" And so we just kind of like fell into the music video thing from there, because then Phantom Mellow contacted us after that, and then we did a video for Garage Barrage, and then other bands just kept contacting us. So I was like, "Okay, I guess we
got some."
Yeah, we're doing music videos right now, which is
Yeah.
good that Ian kicked it off. Ian directed that Mean Motor Scooter video. Really good that he kicked it off because I feel like he had the best music video mindset out of all of us. You know. Yeah, I keep calling him our editor, but he's also written and directed a lot of our sketches too, and like probably almost half of our music videos.
Yeah.
He always has a heavy hand and stuff, but he sees things that way. And so like I had never done a music video before. I was all narrative, and even if you watch the music videos that I directed, there is more of a narrative element to most of mine, and then Ian has more of like a 90s style like visual true music video
Yeah.
element to his. So I was really glad that he was the one that kicked us off directing that one.
It's a good lane for y'all to be in because, in addition, you know, I think it's going to be so hard for y'all financially, right? Because it's just so difficult to make anything that the wider you can cast that net right now, I think the more financially beneficial it's going to be for you. Like, I think you'll be able to do projects like that to help fund the projects you want to do.
That was the plan when we dove more into music videos, was because we did self-fund some of Mystery Murder, but we also did a Kickstarter for it as well. Because our grand was about $9,000 on that, which was still not even what we did on Mystery Murder, but we still, a lot of it came from favors and people working for free, even with that $9,000. Because by the time we paid for the location, we did a slight amount of visual effects that was somebody we didn't have in our back pocket, so we had to pay for that afterward. Prop knives, like, you know, makeup, like there was all kinds of stuff that we had to pay
I'm amazed
for.
anything gets done.
Yeah, no, that's
know?
what like we try to let all the bands know that when we do these projects with them, that like, hey, look, we're not going to be able to give everybody what we're giving them right now at the price that we're currently doing it for. Because in reality, most of these videos that, you know, some bands have paid $500, whatever, that we make it real to them. Like, look, guys, what this would really cost if we paid for every element that was here is more in like the 20 to 30,000 range, and we're probably even lowballing it with some of that. That's how much, especially if they want the big toys, because a lot of them come out and they're like, hey, we want this look that you did for this video. Well, that video specifically took this amount of stuff to be able to do, and some things that we have to go outside of Coffee Pot for. So we haven't. I mean, the plan was to put money away for future short films, but we really haven't been able to do that very much, because then we get so into the project and we want it to be good that whatever little bit of money they're spending, like they're giving us, we end up spending on the video and not putting any back in our pockets. And even with the few videos we have been able to do that with, it just goes back into the overall Coffee Pot fund. Not one of us has put a single dime. And if anything, several of us individually have come out of pocket overall on this whole thing and doing some of these videos for these guys.
Those one microphone recordings I was doing with Joe, you know, my side of it was really just, okay, I'll help find some bands. I'll film it with my phone and do all that. I'll edit it, and I'll be, you know, I wanted to make the studio look different for each one. And, you know, in terms of just like set design, I guess. And his was going to be audio, you know. And I found myself every single time going, ooh, you know what would be cool? And then you start making like your dream list of what you want to do for set design. And you're like, oh, cool. This thing that we're putting on YouTube that's probably not going to make any money, my wife's not going to let me spend $4,000 on this.
Right.
And it was very basic. It wasn't even incredible things. It was just, you realize like one fucking light, you know, is hundreds of dollars.
Oh, dude.
You know, and then you start to learn that you can't buy a cheap one because the way it looks on a camera is not what you have in mind.
Right, and you're just not going to have the versatility out of it,
No,
especially
no.
like the stuff that we're borrowing these days, like these things called Titan tubes and these sky panel lights from some of these guys.
The lights are expensive.
Yeah, they're crazy expensive because you can do so much within the light itself as well. Like it has such a brain on it, and like they do, it looks different, it all plays different, and I mean, but then
just the mind fucked of seeing a room in person, you learn like, oh, eyeballs are incredible. Because eyeballs take in light so much better than any of these cameras can. So you made this incredible thing that you're looking at in person, and then the moment you put a camera lens on it and you're looking at it through a screen, you're like, oh, it looks terrible.
Oh yeah, no,
this looks so bad. Like, why can't cameras just be as good as my eyeball?
In our world, until we have a lens up, you can put up a few instruments on heads and stuff like that. And until you have a lens up and you're looking at it, people don't even really start actually designing the lighting because there's no point.
Yeah.
Like you need to know like. That's where I say on the like the techie end. That's where I have to defer. Even when we're talking to bands, I like when possible. I like to have either Ian or Ryan, one of the two of their presence there for a lighting, so I can ask questions to them, and then Ian, so I can ask questions post wise. Like, hey, is that something we're able to pull off in post? Because I don't do anything with posts. Like, and then same thing with the lighting. Like I know a little bit about that, but there's a lot that I still need to ask. Know, Ryan and Joe. So that's where we get really departmentalized and stuff.
Yeah. What do you think were the biggest lessons you learned from doing, when you said like, okay, we'll do the music videos, we'll do some favors, not in terms of the relationship, but in terms of actual filming, actual work? What do you think you picked? Because if you're doing it for free and you're essentially free or your own money, what lessons do you think you were taking away from it that at least were really valuable for the experience?
It's not easy.
Yeah. No, I mean, you go first.
Ahead.
You go first.
The amount of money, and you think you could like, all right, I got these ideas, but it's like, okay, but you need this, you need that, you need copyright for that, and you're just like, damn, I just want this one shot. Like, like, well, we got to ask permission if we could shoot there, and I'm like, it's not like you can just go anywhere and shoot also, right? So it was a great learning experience. I mean, it's
where were y'all having to get permission to shoot?
I brought up some idea about was it a school playground? Yeah, for a rap video. And that's when he explained to me, like, well, you got to ask permission from the school and this and that. And then I got to get kids, like.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
weird.
the one that ends up poo-pooing on a lot of ideas because of that.
And then we all hate him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just trying to keep us out of jail, all right?
Right.
If you just take random kids to a school that doesn't allow you to be there.
Right. Why are you filming these kids?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Because in my professional life, like I said, I'm a first assistant director, so like 99% of what I do is logistical stuff. So like the second that, and I'm going to help out with this other short film in a couple weeks. Luckily, it's a director. It's not like a student film or anything like that. So this guy works in the business too, and he knows what he's doing. But there's often I've been asked to help out on something like that, and I'm starting to look through the script. I'm like, how do y'all plan on doing half of this stuff? This will require this. This will require this. I'm like, oh, we can go steal that. I'm like, no, because that's how because safety's a big thing with me too. Like whether it's our thing, whatever, we're not going to put people at risk, especially people coming in and helping us out that aren't even a part of Copypot. But we're not going to put any of our Copypot guys at risk either. But that also goes for we don't want to burn any locations, so we're not just going to go steal shots at a school. That's creepy anyway. But like there's just certain things like we've shot. We tried to for Mr. Lucci, we were going to do a video for him, and we wanted a
wait, Mr. Lucci?
Yeah.
Mr. Lucci and Mr. Pookie?
Yes, sir.
What?
Yeah.
What's Mr. Lucci doing these days?
Man, he's doing a lot these days.
That's like
dude.
mid to late 90s rap, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's been doing a lot of stuff.
So he's still here in Dallas?
Yep,
Yes,
absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
good for him.
And he's a super cool guy, just such a nice dude.
awesome.
And I got to give a shout out to Dosky G, who's kind of his. I've never talked about Dosky about what his official title is within Lucci, but it's because it's not a management, but they're like I just want to say partners, like in a lot of what they do, but they want to do a lot more narrative stuff now. We're gonna do it. Miguel and I are gonna co-direct a music video. We've only done one video for him so far that Ian and I co-directed.
Yeah.
But Miguel and I are gonna do one for him for a song called Lessons of Life, and then we're also gonna help them out. They shot a little pilot. We're still doing that, I think.
Okay.
But they got a pilot now too called Lessons of Life for like this comedy show that they're
it's on
doing as
YouTube.
well. So they want to get more into the narrative world. Like Lucci wants to do more acting, and then our friend Dosky G, who we know Lucci through, they both want it. So you might see them pop up in some coffee pot stuff and
That's
everything.
awesome.
So yeah, no, Lucci's just we're super grateful to.
Well, listen, man,
work with
his
them.
old albums, like, he had
Diabolical?
a lot of diamonds and money on those covers.
Oh,
so
dude.
Tell him, like, Lucci, you better be paying them.
I think he was like 17 when Diabolical came out too.
God,
like
he's really cool though, man.
Yeah. Just could not be a cooler dude.
They're another great example, though, of like when they were putting that stuff out, it was so, even though it was hip hop, it was very different than the other hip hop that was coming out, right?
Yes,
like
course,
it had a very Dallas sound to it.
Yeah. He's local legend status in Dallas,
and it still makes you wonder. It's like, it was so good. How come it didn't just pop? And he's like internationally known Mr. Lucci,
right?
You know?
Right.
Like, what was the thing that kept him back? Was it touring connections? Was it producers? What was it?
You know, we've never really had that conversation.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Because it was so big, you know. And it's like, because I grew up in a small town, east of here by like an hour. All right, we were like, it was a predominantly white school. I graduated with 80 people in my class. And everyone in my circle had those two albums. Had the Mr. Pookie and Mr. Lucci
Yeah.
albums. And it's like, so he was doing something right, that it made its way from, you know, inner city Dallas to the suburbs.
Raw talent, I think.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, to know it was good enough for that, but it still wasn't, you know.
Man, you just never know. Like,
know.
because even with like who we view around Dallas is somebody huge in the Toadies and the DFW range. Like when I went off to college at Full Sail in Florida in 2007 and 2006. Like so many people out there had no idea. In my age group too, like early 20s, late teens, had no idea. And I'd be like Possum Kingdom, and then I'd start singing the song. Like, oh yeah, I know that one. And like maybe I come from the water, but like it's like you just don't know why it's like that. They had a very marketable, like nationwide kind of sound,
and I think
especially at the time.
I think they were on like Saturday Night Live and stuff. I mean,
you never really know. But yeah, he would be an interesting guest. Actually, Lucci would be an interesting guest for you to have on.
I have a terrible gauge too of how famous somebody is, like the Toadies, old 97s. It's like, are they known everywhere, or is it just we love them so much?
And a lot of that is with the Toadies, I think, is we just love them so much around here. But I don't think it's that people don't love them. I think they just aren't hip to them, other than Possum Kingdom popping on their classic rock station every once in a while.
Because that's still one of those albums, front to back. You don't
Rubberneck?
skip a song. It just goes.
Uh-huh.
And it still holds.
Do you think maybe they didn't want to be big? Because I never really.
Some bands don't want that. Some artists, like I said about George Romero.
And then because I feel sometimes when you're making it big, they ask you to do a lot of changes. Maybe some of them didn't want to do that, and so that's why they weren't.
It's possible.
I
don't know.
I think that way, because
I think a band like the Toadies would have loved to have been known worldwide if they could have been.
Yeah.
Because if they were able to make that album, which didn't feel like it had any compromises on it, and I think they'd probably be okay. I don't know, but it is a good question. I think it's. Yeah, I guess no matter what, the higher up you go in that machine, people want to get their grubby little hands on your art.
Yeah.
You got to change a lot of stuff.
That's true.
You start selling your private. That's honestly why part of my defense of, like a lot of people bitch about athletes or musicians or people in the entertainment industry and how much money they get. I'm like, well, once you achieve a certain level of fame, you are essentially selling your entire life to the public at that point. Yeah. So I think there's some justification, especially in the sports world, where you're dedicating everything you have for this job that you can only have for so long. Like,
well, and
if you're lucky,
and that's
10
all
years.
you know how to
And
do.
while we're recording this, that guy from the Bills just got his was it the Bills?
Damar Hamlin,
He just got his breathing tube pulled out from getting
thank
like
God.
the
he's already
1 in 1,000,
talking,
1 in a million hit, making your heart stop. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's the other part of it is I'm not even a huge football fan. I think it's ridiculous what a lot of them get paid for, like the potential end of life they could have.
Yeah.
But, he chose it, and it's like, the football organization is making a shitload of money off of him. And he just proved that he could literally die on the field doing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, that's why you're paying him, because we still don't know. His career might be totally done now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
are they going to let him play again? I know he wants to play again.
I mean, he says he wants to play, but
course.
what
The
about when
first-
he gets out on the field and
his
that
first
person's running at him
response-
and he has PTSD from having a heart attack
His
on the
first
field?
response was, "Who won the game?"
Right.
Because
man.
that's all they know.
That's still competitive
Yeah.
spirit.
It's all they know, but still, I bet he never runs down the field the same way again, because in the back of his mind, you'll be thinking, is this hit going to do it? Is this
Maybe.
one gonna be
It
I don't know.
Some guys,
But he might just be like crazy and just be
like I love this. It's
nah,
all-
man, that was the past. Let's go fuck
Yeah.
some shit.
Yeah.
that was a fluke.
Yeah, I mean,
True, yeah.
some guys have that mentality to come back from the ACL injury and just play with reckless abandon. Like I'm not a big Russell Westbrook fan in the NBA, but that man came back from his ACL injury like nothing ever happened. And then you got other guys that are like sometimes not just physically capable of doing it, and then other guys that are just they're it's constantly in the back of their minds that they're going to get hurt again, so they start entirely
They'll
changing
change
their game. But you never really know until you step into that situation again.
So talking about money, then, what do you think movie theaters are going to have to do? to remain.
I think they're doing it. Like a lot of them are going for more of the experience. So you got like Cinemark doing things like D-box seats, and everybody's putting in loungers, and they're doing the and like, granted, this has been happening for a few years, but the assigned seating and everything. I think they're doing what they can. The studios are doing what they can.
The assigned seating, that was the thing I never knew I wanted.
Oh, dude,
now I have it. I'm like,
perfect.
oh, this is incredible. Why weren't we doing this,
dude? I don't know. Did you
buying
go with
online?
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Did you go with us to the episode 3 premiere way back in the day, the midnight showing?
Episode 3.
Star Wars?
Yes.
Okay, we all went to Grapevine Mills. We got to the theater fucking like noon.
No, I didn't
so
know
this
that.
is like, this is what, 2004 or something like that. And so we got to the theater like at noon for our midnight showing because you don't have the, and they were true midnight showings on the Thursday of release rather than the 7 p.m. showings and everything they're doing now as well. So if you were a hardcore fan, you're going at fucking midnight. But like our theater sold out like 3 months in advance. So they let us in. We got to the theater at noon. They let us into the theater at 2 p.m. to go ahead and start saving seats and all that. So we were legit at that theater for like 15 hours.
Oh my God.
By the time the movie
What are you
was
doing when
over
you
and
grab a seat
everything.
at 2 p.m.?
Man, we were
Play
early 20s.
But
so
you're
yeah,
sitting in
like,
the chair from
well,
2 p.m.
We went to Grapevine Mills.
You like put a coat on it? Like, what do you do?
See, we went to Grapevine Mills. So our theater, once everybody got in and got their seats, everybody was just super cool and happy to be there. So you could leave like one person there saving 12 seats, and everybody just go walk around the mall, go to the food court. So you take shifts of who was guarding the seats, and then
That's so
about 3 hours before
funny.
game time, we're just playing Star Wars Monopoly down in the floor at the front of the
Because this is
theater and stuff.
pre-smartphone and like
Exactly.
you got to really think how you're going to entertain yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, that makes me think of the old Seinfeld episode where they're trying to save all the seats and throw all the coats over seats.
Oh
and
yeah,
everything.
no. If it wasn't a situation like that, no. It came to. I remember William almost getting into a fight at Jackass, the original
for saving
Jackass,
a
trying to
seat.
save a seat. I went outside.
People are rude, man.
Oh no! I went outside to give one of our buddies our ticket, and I get a phone call from one of the other guys. They're like, "You better get up here. William's about to beat the shit out of this guy." And I could hear the yelling as I'm coming around the corner, and like see them at the top of the theater about to go at it. And like, so luckily the Star Wars crowd wasn't.
You mean the
quite like
Jackass
that.
crowd was a little rowdy?
It was the first
There's some
Jackass
Jack-
movie too.
there's
It
some
was the original
Jackass
one
in
too.
that
That dates us a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot about those types of things. Jackass. I was talking to somebody about Tom Green yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, what happened to that guy?
and
He did that Hitler sketch, and then that was the end of that chapter.
so, but he seems cheesy now because same with Jackass. Like Jackass and Tom Green, they seem almost hacky because so many other people have ripped off that formula now that you forget they're the creators.
Yeah.
Tom Green especially, it's like you forget. He was so weird and original, and it was before he had a smartphone to do these sketches. Like he had to have production equipment to make this work.
He did a public access show.
Yes.
That's how he got the MTV show.
That was like the original. Like that was pretty much kind of the birthing of podcasting as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's this guy just DIYing everything, and so thinking about some of those sketches he did before people even knew how to react to that stuff is wild.
Oh yeah, I used to watch the shit out of it. I thought it was hilarious. It was
so-
the original Street Prankster.
And so it makes me wonder what incredible movies we love right now, or incredible, shows like that. That when we watch them 30 years from now, the kids are
What's
just going to be
gonna
like,
age
"What
poorly?"
the fuck is it?" Like, if you watch Animal House now, you're like, "This is so cheesy."
Yeah.
This is beyond cheesy, and it's like, is Superbad going to be like that? I don't want that to go.
Oh, that's
Man,
true,
it's
man.
funny that you say that
Yeah.
because Miguel, I run a Facebook movie group called the Super Serious Movie Club Gang. It's a private group, but
Okay.
like we've still got like 600 and something members, and we do these brackets of movies. And we just got done with our teen comedy bracket, which Ferris Bueller won, and I was very upset because like
Ferris Bueller won?
Ferris Bueller
Yeah.
won, and the final four came down to it was Ferris Bueller versus Can't Hardly Wait,
Can't
and
Hardly
then
Wait, Superbad.
versus Breakfast Club.
Superbad and Breakfast.
I'm 37, so I was kind of more prime age, and him as well. We were more prime age for Can't Hardly Wait and that whole era. I was 13 when that came out, and like I wasn't a big American Pie fan, but either way, it was like within the group you started seeing the age groups split on these votings of like the hardcore like Gen Xers and Boomers who were all about John Hughes, and it's like I'm like, man, you're making
Which
me
is
not like John Hughes.
There's nothing wrong with Ferris Bueller and Breakfast
Yeah.
Club. Those classics are great. I
you
love the
start-
I
I
don't
80s.
think they're great.
But you start to see
I think they're great, but they're not.
it's
funny,
very much
like-
though. It's very much if you were a kid or if you were a teen when
yeah.
these came out, that's what hit you
Yeah,
hardest.
'cause
Exactly.
You can connect to it better.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that's comedy
And that's
anyway.
probably why we connect better.
Oh, because so many of these
Superbad.
80s movies I can't get behind. Like I appreciate what they are, but I'm just like I'm so bored watching.
And
this.
I do love some 80s cheese.
yeah, I
like
love
Big Trouble in Little
80s.
China
I
is my
love
favorite
Big
movie
Trouble
of
in
all
Little China.
time.
Yeah, but that's a
Like,
different version.
It's a
That's-
different version.
yeah.
Yeah, I love a bunch of 80s cheese. It's just there's a lot of comedies. Like Airplane aged really well for me, but there's a lot of those comedies, like especially the teen ones, that just didn't. But I look at Superbad. Granted, I was 22 when Superbad came out. but still, like that and Mean Girls just slap in a different way. And I think they like if I go back and watch those, I'm still laughing at Airplane just as hard as I am those, but I'm not laughing at Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller as hard as I am those, or Animal House. Really,
I love the Three Amigos.
Love Three Amigos still.
Funny.
That's still hilarious.
You know what's going to be interesting about the teen movies, how they age, is somebody was talking recently. I don't know, it might have been somebody on Rogan's podcast, but they were talking recently about how Superbad is probably the last like high school teen comedy where smartphones really didn't exist.
Yeah, because 2008, like the first iPhone came out that year, at the end of that year, I believe.
So
or 2007.
So that might be the thing that
out.
dates it, is like you're always going to see like a weird flip phone.
Yeah,
or
like why didn't they just use it?
Yeah, why didn't they just fucking call them?
Yeah.
You know?
I tell you one thing that's made a son of a bitch for is horror movies. Like, because I'm a big horror fan, and like, so anytime I try to write, you've got to account for the fucking cell phone.
The phone has to be lost,
films.
or the battery dies.
No, in our
has
short,
to be no signal.
Yeah, in our short film, we had it where the party hosted this mystery murder, took everybody's phones and hid them to keep them from using them during the game. And so that's, but you got to have some reasoning for it.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do now, like you've got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And like, and teen movies are having to deal, like the 8th grade Bo Burnham's movie. That's primarily what it dealt with, was, you know, a junior high kid having to deal with social media in general and like what that does to their whole mindset, especially, you know, when parents got to face decisions of, well, I don't really want to let my kid in that environment, but am I also going to make them the outcast? Because like literally all the other parents are letting their kids do that. So it's like, I don't have kids, but I can imagine like that's part of the reason why I don't want
Like
them.
I said, our little guy's about to be 3 years old, and there were all these rules like no screen time before he's 2 years old, and
Yeah,
it's like,
stick to that. Yeah.
well, I mean, we tried, but it's like good fucking luck, you know.
Yeah.
And the stuff he was watching was very like, we were watching this thing called Spark Abilities, where literally like if you just needed 20 minutes to get something done, you could pop them down in front of it. But it was like shapes, colors, animals, words, phrases, like, and he was learning stuff from that.
That's good.
And so I was like, well, this is a lot different than like, you know, we put on Fight Club, you know?
Right, yes.
And but then also I realized it's like, he's going to grow up in a world where screens are life.
Right.
For work, for hobbies, for everything. It's like anything you go to now is going to have a screen of some kind. So it's like he kind of just needs to learn how to deal with all this in an appropriate way, I think.
I agree.
Hide it all.
Monitor.
You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Then we also have a friend who's a detective in specifically cyber crimes and sex crimes.
Oh wow.
And so he has children, and he's telling us about all the like accidental child porn and stuff that gets created because you know, high school kids are like sending pics and stuff, and it's like it turns into felonies depending on who's like looking. It's like, oh god, he's never getting a phone. You know?
Well, you think about with gaming, like, you know, like my little cousin's super into gaming, but my aunt keeps like such a tight leash on what he can do online, because like most of the time, like even as adults, like I'm still a big gamer, but anytime we get into games, we go to like a private chat, even because we're not even trying to hear what some of these other folks are like. It's they say wild shit. Most of it's annoying anyway, but like just
I've had little kids talk shit to me while gaming. Like,
oh, dude,
what?
yeah, no.
And it hurts. They're dead on usually.
Yeah.
Like, how did you know that?
That motivates me, man. I go mute.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
like, all right, that's on. Let's
That's
go.
hilarious.
I'll let them have it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
Yeah.
You can't find me.
Tell me more about Mystery Murder.
Well, it's essentially we wanted to do like a stupid horror comedy. So a few of us, it was the initial inception of it was myself, Joe Bannister, and Ryan Sir decided to have a meeting because we just, you know, whichever combinations of us would have meetings from time to time. And we'd been doing the sketch thing. We had shot 3 music videos at that point, which were Mean Motors, Scooters, Gutter Boy Blues, Phantom Mellow Gum Love, and then Garage Barrage, Mr. Wolfie. And we're like, man, it's time for us to like do something to finally take to festival. So we literally, you know, I know we're kind of out ourselves, but literally just passing blunt around, and we're like, all right, let's just start making some decisions. So first of all, we're gonna do a horror comedy. Okay, we know that. And then Ryan's like, what if it's a mystery or a murder mystery? We're like, all right, cool, that's cool. And like, do we want this to be like monster? I think it was Joe who said slasher. And then we started working through it from there. And it's a very, we don't have anything important to say with mystery murder, and we weren't going for that. We wanted to go for just sheer entertainment value, and just make a fun horror comedy. So this guy Mark throws a birthday party for himself, a murder mystery birthday party. And when the lights come on, there's 2 dead bodies, the one he planned for and then the one he didn't plan for, which is fairly stereotypical. And then he starts questioning if everybody's pranking him or not. And I don't know. It's like,
don't say anything else if you don't want to.
That's about
Yeah,
so,
we'll just leave it at that.
yeah, 'cause we're about to put it on YouTube here pretty soon.
The horror genre is something that I've always struggled to get, and I think I finally am getting it now, where because I like it was hard for me to watch any horror films and see the silliness of it.
There's a lot of dumb stuff.
Well, instead, what I'm seeing is like I get too empathetic to the characters that are being tortured or whatever, and it's like, I can't watch this. Like, that looks horrible. And then finally, I watched. Oh my god, it's the big one with the weird clown, and they cut. Nope, that is the big one.
Terrifier?
Terrifier.
Yeah.
I finally watched the original Terrifier because all the stuff coming out about Terrifier too.
Yeah, me too.
I still haven't watched the second one yet, but
I
the first
watched
one
the
is
second
so brutal.
and I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
I loved it. Loved it.
I think that was the one that finally opened my eyes of like, it's supposed to be stupid. We're going for
turn off your brain.
Yeah. It's mindless, and it's like you know exactly what's going to happen. It's just go with it, you know. And I think now I'm kind of, because before that, the only one that I really loved watching was the what is it? Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, some Rob Zombie stuff.
Yeah, those were the ones where I was like, this is the best mix of like crazy stuff, but there's still somewhat of a narrative going on where I'm with it.
You can tell Zombie's a huge fan of the Chainsaw Massacre series. He's very into the grit and grind.
Well, and he's just such a character himself in terms of how he lives his life. He's just over the top artistic creative. Yeah.
He's got his own thing.
It definitely seems like I would not like to hang out with him, but I would like to look at all of his stuff.
I like to chat with him about movies, like especially like horror stuff. Because
I wouldn't want to be alone with him.
I mean, horror's got so much diversity within itself. Because now you have this trend of elevated horror going on with like Ari Aster stuff with Hereditary and Midsummer.
Those are good. Have you seen them?
No, what's elevated horror? What do you mean?
Elevated horror is more of your stuff that you could start, like, I guess, looking into like Oscar categories and stuff, like where you've got actual
that
like
sounds really challenging.
Story and like, which not to say, not to say the other
acting, like watching an act character transition. Like,
it really is. It's just a higher level of horror, and so
like
people who aren't who like now it is very art house. Like they get very fucking weird, but it's not in the. They take the cheese and the camp out of it. Like so, I personally I want all my horror. I want my Spam and I want my filet mignon too. You know, like so like I do want to watch my shit. Like Terrifier is slightly elevated to that genre specifically because you get some really cheesy, shitty slashers out there. Like Scream kind of leans in that. Series kind of leans into what the whole thing is.
The new ones. I still think the first one was really great.
The first one is, but it still leans. It's still comedy too. It still leans into it a bit, comedy. But it is smart comedy. It was a little slicker at the time as well. Yeah. But yeah, I guess elevated horror is just like your higher level of, because really that's what Silence of the Lambs is. I get in arguments with people about that all the time. And it's a fucking horror movie.
That is a horror movie.
It's about a guy who kidnaps people and wears their skin and eats them. And Hannibal Lecter, there's not one Last Supper horror picture that you can have with all the great horror icons, and Hannibal Lecter's not in there.
Right.
Like, so the people didn't want to call it horror because
he's cooking
it won the
a piece
Oscar.
of brain on TV.
Yes,
I mean,
dude,
on the film. I mean, like
he feeds it to a
that's
kid.
a horror thing.
It's horror.
Yeah.
Like Hannibal was more.
You know what it was though?
Horror,
it's just because it's not like obviously fake blood everywhere.
Right, and that's what people want to say horror. Like no, like that's your like slashers and gore horror and stuff like that. But there's always been stuff out there that's like your Rosemary's Babies and your Exorcist, which are like that. That's elevated horror for the time as well. Like you're talking about William Friedkin with The Exorcist and stuff, and like legit, Oscar nominated people. But that's what Ari Aster and Robert Eggers, whatever people think of, like they're both kind of polarizing because they do get really art house too. Robert Eggers did The Witch, which is all like the dialogue is Old English and stuff like that too, so it can be kind of a bear for some people. And then The Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson, old Bobby Patts, and Willem Dafoe is one of the weirder movies you'll ever see in your entire life.
Man, Willem Dafoe. Guys like him, I argue so much about how actors need to look so average and then almost borderline weird.
Yeah, there's some people. There's such specific people that you can never recreate, and like that,
dude, just, and like him, Christopher Walken. It's like there's just such a look and such a feel.
Nicholson,
and I get the feeling that if they weren't actors, they would still kind of be this person. You know, it'd be like your weird coworker, and you're like, no, he's good. You'll get used to him. Like,
we were talking about that. Me and Joe were watching old music videos, and we saw a Buck Cherry video. We're like, man, like that guy and Steven Tyler, like that guy and Steven Tyler, like what the fuck else could they do with their lives if they weren't lead singers of bands? They can't work at fucking fucking Kiko's.
Oh, when
like,
he was getting full body tattoos before it was like a cool thing
And,
that everybody did.
Right,
Like,
right.
when it really did ruin your whole life.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
Tommy Lee, like he looks like a rock star.
yeah, it's like you can't like
Ed Navarro looks
have a
like
face like that. And do
Imagine those
something
guys
else.
never getting into music. You know, like
Yeah, what would they be doing?
yeah, Tommy Lee works. You know, he works in accounts receivable.
He's a
at
lawyer.
Whatever. It's like just
See him on TV on a trial.
yeah, he's just got like a regular boring guy haircut and like
Yeah, there's some things just that you're just born for it, you know.
Yeah.
yeah. Do you imagine Colin Farrell? You like call the electrician over and he's like, yeah, we'll put some light bulbs here. We'll get the ceiling fans put up. It's
Right,
like-
exactly.
it's like- and you never know. Yeah, it's fascinating. How do you guys find? Well, this is the first kind of bigger short film that you've done, right?
That's the first one because, we could have probably taken some old sketch ideas and put a little bit more into them and taken them to festival, but we were always so paranoid about going the festival route. It felt like something like we saw some people putting, and not to hate on other people's work,
Yeah.
but we saw some things
But-
that people were putting in festival and we're like, man, we would have just
Well, we're so
considered that a
scared of
sketch.
them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
would have just put that online because we were like, we wanted something that if we were going to finally like call in some favors, because with our sketches, we very rarely called in outside help and borrowed gear. We just did everything with what we had on us. And it was once we started doing the music videos and doing this that we were like, all right, it's time to call it. People have been telling us for years, like all of our friends that Joe and Ryan and I work with in the film business around here, like people who work on broadcast level shit, or like they just want to come help out because it's like, oh, this is funner than commercial work. This is why we got in the business and we just want to work with you guys. And we're like, all right, well, this is the time to do it. Then we're going to go all in on this guy. And so that's where we specifically tailored the idea to be something a little bit grander that felt like we were doing something festival worthy in our minds versus just something else that we would have just put out online. So it's like, all right, real location. We're really going to do some special effects stuff here, at least minor stuff that we can pull off in this historic mansion without getting blood everywhere. And I got so serious about it, and I'm so glad all the rest of the guys convinced me out of it, that I was going to, all of the male roles in this are dudes from Coffee Pot. So everybody had a very, very major hand in everything. There was one role specifically that I was for sure that I wanted to go out of house for. I was like, I just don't know if any of you guys are going to be right for this role. And I wanted to audition other actors outside of house in general, and all the guys convinced me, like, no, we can do this. Let us play these roles. We'll all audition for every single role. Because, I think I got self-conscious once we were accepting money from people on Indiegogo and finally asking for that, and we're asking for people's time to come help out on it too, that I didn't want to make it look like we were just doing it just to toot our own horn or anything, that we were going to go about it the right way.
It's good to feel that pressure though, isn't it?
It was.
Like, oh shit, we've got people who have expectations now.
Well, and it's something that you can't
It's
just,
like it's uncomfortable, but at the same time you're like, yeah, we got people with expectations now.
yeah,
This is great.
and it's something you can't just cancel. Like it's like, no, once those first donations came in, it's like, this is really happening now. This ball is rolling. Like I had to get like 3 different little production companies around here to help us out with insurance because we don't have our own. So I had to borrow insurance.
Another thing you don't think about, insurance.
Yeah, no, because the house, it's this historical mansion in Dallas. They required insurance. Where we rented the prop knives from in New York.
Where is this? Because I was about to ask you if this is a
over
real
on
place.
Ross. It is. It's over on Ross. It's called the Alexander Mansion or the Dallas Women's Forum. Like I think it pulls
Ross
up,
and what?
Ross and.
Is it closer to downtown or closer over here to Deep Ellum area?
No, it's closer to downtown.
Okay.
It's like Ross and Munger area. Like I know that. Yeah, somewhere in that general
I think
range
it's
over
before
there.
you get to Greenville, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So old East Dallas.
Yeah, they did like some kind of event there this year. Like I drove by it at one point, and I live in Irving, so there's a lot of like, even being a freelancer in Dallas and being out here, I still get confused about some of the streets over here. But they were doing some kind of like Spirit Halloween thing. They're not like Spirit the store, but like they're like spirits, like
God,
drinks
Spirit Halloween
and
is
everything, like some kind
everywhere.
of fancy event. People looked like they were going to like the Wedding of the Dead or something. I don't
Well,
know.
that
It was
house
wild.
was creepy. Like
Yeah.
every room, from the attic to the basement.
Yeah, the basement. I want to shoot something.
There's a
there
basement,
still.
which is
Yeah.
not common in Texas.
Oh,
so
dude,
that's
I
extra
wanted to
creepy.
shoot at the basement because it looked like the Blair Witch. Basement.
It did look like the Blair,
Yeah.
like exactly like it. Well, and they rented out for all kinds of events. Like the lady who rented us the place told us at the end of our second shoot day that she had to turn down. Troy Aikman wanted it last minute for something.
Yeah.
You guys bumped Troy
We
Aikman.
bumped
Yeah,
Troy
we did,
Aikman.
yeah.
Well, hey, we paid for that shit. We
Watch
paid
out,
for our
Aikman.
location. We paid our fees. We signed the contract.
I'm sure he
so
could have paid more.
Also, Aikman, if you would like to invest in Coffee Pot Films,
Yeah,
please let-
yeah.
Hey, we would have put him in the movie.
right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, so once but all the guys nailed their roles. They all auditioned for every single role, and we cast them how we honestly felt. Was good for each
You
role.
spoke about casting earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
They casted that perfect.
Yeah. How do you That's so hard to cast, by the way.
It is, especially when it's your friends and he really wanted.
Are you having
the
them
Mark
read
role.
lines? What are you doing?
That's it.
How did you cast?
That's it. We had him come over. Joe and I still live together. We very weird for our age of how long we've been living together, but it makes it easy. Neither one of us have kids, and we kind of become the meeting house for everybody. So everybody just came over to the house and auditioned.
Yeah.
And they all read through the roles, which everybody auditioned for every single one because they were like, well, just in case I end up being right for this one, kind of thing.
So what in your mind? How did you decide? Was it a gut feeling, or you had something in mind coming into it? I'm looking for this type of person. How did you approach that?
Well, I mean, it was between Joe and Ian. Well, no, Ian didn't want to be involved because he was auditioning for it. So it was really between Joe and Ryan and myself since we wrote the initial script. Now, it changed after everybody else got involved, and we all kind of co-wrote it at that point. But we just went with we went with our gut on what we knew about them, what we saw them do in the audition, how they handled certain lines. We give them maybe minor direction on a couple of them, but we're really just seeing kind of where their instincts were at with a few things. Because we'd given them some direction beforehand too on like, hey, here's kind of how we're feeling about this guy. Here's kind of how we're feeling about this guy. Do we think that this look really works for whoever's going to be our killer? Do we think that his voice sounds right for these particular lines? And so it's just, it's kind of like, I guess it's gut instinct on it, but it's more about what they did in the audition process.
And you're also doing that on something that's not a set with, like you're just in your house, right?
Yeah,
Right.
on the couch.
So you're also trying to wrap your mind around how's it going to look when we actually set it all up.
Well, and nobody that was in other than Ian, because he went with us on the initial scout. Then the three girls, they came from a comedy troupe, improv comedy troupe thing that they all worked together. And there was another girl named Sarah Spooner who initially got us. She works in the business, and she initially got us in contact with a few of these girls, and they all came over to the house to audition, which was awkward at first. I'm like, God, we just don't have a space other than the house to be able to rent to do this. So, I hope they're not like creeped out by this, but they were all really cool. We auditioned like 5 girls, and honestly, the other 2 girls who didn't get the parts, we still want to use them for something else as well because we really liked what they did in the audition. And one of the girls, Caitlin, we had a completely different idea of what her character was going to be, but then when she came in and read for all the roles and the role we ended up giving her, we changed that character around a bit to fit her because we just liked the way she played it, and she changed our minds on how we thought that character should go because of how she
really
did
exciting.
it. Yeah,
you
got to be open to that.
Man, between like music, I used to play in bands and do those things, and then the little bit of audio. Like I recorded a comedy album for someone, and I'd like to do more of those things. And then the little bit of film stuff that I've done, very, very, very small amount. You start to really embrace the flow of it all, which sounds very like woo-woo and cheesy. And I'm not. I'm the opposite. I'm very like, I want a schedule. I have this vision. I want that. I want it all to be done this way. And then the more I do this stuff, the more I've kind of let the universe just do its thing.
Right.
Because you realize it's like, if this person's showing up late, it's going to make some other thing. And like all of a sudden you get these happy little accidents that happen on projects where you're like, fuck, man, if I had forced it, I would have missed on that.
Yeah.
Where in the past I would force it. So it's like, man, how many interesting moments did I miss out on because I was trying way too hard to control it instead of just, let's just go with the flow on this.
Absolutely. Because so many, especially with our old sketches and everything, so much of it would come down to like improv stuff. Like we would, like I was one, I always wanted something written. So, and I wanted a good take of that written dialogue. So I knew that I had a safety net of something that would cut. And whether it was good or not, I knew it would at least cut and make sense.
You did the one you wanted for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to make sure we had something, unless that they just did something. I'm like, okay, and I just spotted that's definitely going to work. I don't need the cut of this. If I have that line that they just improv, that definitely works. But once we had what we needed, that's when it always, whoever was directing would open it up to the entire room. Like if somebody was just there helping us out, like, our BTR guy who handles like monitors and everything was coming up to us with ideas on mystery murder. He's a friend of ours in the business and pro at what he does, but all the crew enjoyed that experience of being able to do that as well. But like, you've got to be open to having those improv takes if you've got the time to be able to get it and let the actors do whatever they want. Because sometimes they may do all the same dialogue, but they may just throw out a wild fucking delivery that you never thought about. Like I've heard the Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg group of the world, they're all homies with James Franco. They have to rein him in a lot on his facial expressions.
Franco?
And they didn't make him do that on the interview. So if you watch the interview, he has so much just wild ass crazy fucking delivery on that because they just kind of let him do whatever the fuck he wanted and finally like get a little nuts with some of the things he had been wanting. But sometimes you got to rein them in on that shit too. Like we've had bands with ideas of like, okay, either A, we can't pull that off, or B, we're just not fucking doing that. That's ridiculous. Like, and I'm gonna be very honest with you about it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'll die on this fucking hill that is absolutely ridiculous. And we've had those spats on Copy Pod because we all been like, I've known him for we met in like 20 years now. We met in 2002, and several of the guys I've known for about that amount of time. So most of us have known each other for a really long fucking time. So we've got that really at this point. When it would take something really egregious for us, even if we have spats, problems, whatever in the group, it would take something really egregious for us to not be friends anymore. So there's a comfort level in that of being able to be honest and, you know, like kind of have some bickering moments, but knowing that everything's going to be fine on the other side of that argument.
Man, that's the hardest thing for all artists, right? Is everybody gets so passionate about their stuff and unwavering, like, I will not compromise on this.
Yeah.
And that's what breaks up bands, breaks up every, you know, and that's really the key to it is listening to y'all today, really, it gets so depressing thinking about how much, not y'all, but how
I know, like,
you guys are really bumming me out. No, but what I mean is the further you get into like an artistic endeavor, the more you realize how important structure and business have to be for it to ever get done, which is depressing because the artist got into art because I don't want to go the business route on anything. I want to do artistic things. But you have to. It's like you were saying, just securing locations, making sure people are paid. Do we have enough money to buy the things we need to? Is it going to get out on this time? Do we have insurance? All this stuff just to make the creative thing.
Exactly.
It's mind-blowing.
And that's where we didn't find it worth it on any of those other sketches to go through a lot of that. So we're like, man, we'll just do this. This is practice stuff. We're going to throw this up online, throw shit against the wall, see what sticks. And we figured, let's take the chance on this mystery murder idea.
That's
and
awesome,
we'll try
man.
to do it as right as we can. And luckily, everybody was like a summer camp feeling walking away from it. Everybody that was involved. We had like, well, I don't know, 40 people on set, something like that overall, but like everybody walked away with just such a great vibe, which is so much of what we want, especially for the other people coming to help us out and stuff. Like I've been in the business since 2008 when I graduated film school. I did 9 years as a production assistant, trying to work into being an assistant director just in this town in the commercial world. It's a lot of beat down. You work with a lot of shitty asshole producers.
I bet there are so many egos of people who have done not much.
And, you know, because well, no, and then some of the guys have like, and I don't even give a fuck. I'm gonna say his name right now, Brett Morgan. He did some documentary. He won't listen. If he does, like, then I hope he does.
We actually have Brett coming in tomorrow.
Do you? Like, he directed. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Oscar. It's an Oscar-winning documentary, but the kid stays in the picture. It was all about this producer Robert Evans, who's actually a major character in that show, The Offer, that I'm watching. But he also did recently, or a couple of years ago, he did a Kurt Cobain documentary called Montage of Heck.
Okay.
That was an HBO thing, and then I think he just had another documentary. A lot of his shit is like Oscar level kind of documentary and stuff. But he came into town and was doing a Cowboys big board. They like literally just going to go on the jumbotron at AT&T in Arlington, and we were using a lot of real people, real fans that were going to be on the jumbotron, and like. This dude just could not have been more Hollywood. So, like, I was the PA that had to stick right by his side. And when I'm driving him and the producer to set, I hear him on the phone, the producer on the phone with the first AD, and the director sitting there making comments to the producer like, I want somebody next to me all the fucking time. If I sneeze and there's not a tissue in my hand in 2 seconds, I'm going to freak out. If I say I'm thirsty and there's not a water in my hand in 2 seconds, I'm going to freak out. And I'm like, God damn it, who am I going to put on this? Because I was a kind of seasoned PA at that point, so I'm thinking about it. And then the first AD on the phone with the producer is like, oh, you're in the car with him right now. And I'm like, God damn it. So it became me that was shadowing him the whole time. And he was an asshole to everybody the entire fucking time. And then I'm driving him back to Hotel Zaza after the last shoot day so he can catch his fucking plane and get out of our lives the next morning. And on the way back with just me and him and the producer in the car, he looks at the producer. He's like, you know what? This crew was a bunch of nice people. They all did a really good job. I'm like, motherfucker. It was like that episode of The Office where Michael's like, you know, I would never say this to her face, but she's a wonderful person and a talented artist. It's like, are you kidding me? You could have told all of us that this entire fucking time. So, Brett, hopefully you've changed if you're hearing this.
You wonder
if not.
You wonder if guys like that know that they're that way.
I think he does. I think he did. He had the
You think like it's an act?
the strategic disheveled hair and like.
Well, I don't mean that, but I mean specifically being extremely high maintenance. Not telling people how good they did, but then when he's leaving, going like, "That was really good."
No, some people
I wonder if he knows that
like maybe he feels the way what he's doing is the right way. Right?
Yeah, maybe he doesn't know that he didn't give anyone praise.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like, "Well, they know we did good."
No, I think he
or
did.
Maybe if he does,
I'm giving him the benefit. I don't know.
Maybe if he does tell him, it won't be great. You know.
True. Yeah.
Based on my vibe with him, I think he knew. I think he knew he was being an asshole, and I don't think he cared. I think he thought that was the image that he wanted to put out, and that this was his way of displaying his power power and craves that power. So even if he did recognize that quality within himself, I don't think he would have done anything about it because that's not his image and that's not what he's going for. And he
without
directed
knowing
a fucking Oscar documentary. And
without knowing him, I hope he's the type of person who brags about things that aren't really like. If he said something weird, like I am a Taco Bell rewards member.
Yeah.
Like don't you mess with me.
Exactly. AMC Premiere Plus.
Right.
I get a
I'm an
different
advanced
line.
Sam's Club member.
Yeah.
Premium.
That's where we met. We were cart pushers at Sam's. That's where
Oh
we met.
God! I was a cart pusher at Walmart in Rockwall for 2 hours.
Hey, respect, man.
And I was like, "Fuck it." Well, they hired me to be a
we had
cashier.
fun though.
We did.
If I had a,
you're right.
I'd gotten hired there when I was like 16 or 17, I think, and they hired me to be a cashier at this new store that was opening. And whenever it opened, I showed up, and they were like, "Yeah, we hired too many cashiers. You're a cart pusher." And I was like, all right, well, I need money. And it's like August. I already sweat a lot, so I was like burning up.
Fucking hot,
I sweat a lot, and I don't like being that sweaty. So
Yeah.
it's just a bad. And I was like, I'm going to give it a try. Hard work. We got to do this. And I was out there, and it's like the other cart pushers that they hired, we didn't know each other yet. So nobody had really made a group or anything yet. Everybody was separated. And I felt like I was the only one getting carts, and it's just never ending.
Oh,
right?
dude.
It's never ending. And at that time, I didn't realize, like, you don't have to get all the carts, dude. Just get the carts, go. Like, don't make it don't bust your ass. Just do the work.
See, Sam's, we didn't have a choice
that
because
was
it was a
different.
place where the carts were bigger, and they also no bags or anything. So everybody takes a cart. It's not like pretty much because
So there wasn't a numerous amount of carts either. So once those ran out,
Yeah.
I had to refill them.
And now there's chaos at the front
Oh,
door.
dude,
Where
those-
are the carts?
And the only reason I didn't want to get all of them because I'm like, dude, because when we close, we got to put all that shit back.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fuck that.
And the old greeterman would yell at us on the walkie too if like we need carts at the engine store, and we're like, "Fuck you,
people,
Marvin,
man.
we're bringing them, dude."
Yeah, like,
Marvin.
bitch, it's fucking hot out here, dude. Wait.
Dude, I was out there for like 2 hours, and I was sweaty, and I was like, fuck this, man. And I went in there, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to quit. And the guy's like, really? Like, you haven't even been here half a day.
We had people that just quit while we were working. That shit used to piss me off. 'Cause I'm
Yeah.
like, great, now I'm working by myself.
That was me, man. That was me. I was like, I'm out of here. I was glad I never worked for Walmart after that. Like, I don't know.
And now they got those automatic.
Oh, I know. I'm watching them now, and it's like,
motherfuckers.
well, when you watch it now, they got the automatic ones, and you're like, how are there still no buggies here?
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
guys
yeah,
have
exactly.
You have all this technology, and there's still not a shopping cart.
We were
Where-
busting our ass because then we were also
Yeah.
responsible for. You had all these business members. We were responsible for helping them load up like
Their
their
cars.
50 pallets of
Yeah.
goddamn
Oh,
Diet Coke
wow.
at the exit door
Fuck
too.
yeah. And there's only like two of us
It was
at
a
a time.
beatdown.
Yeah.
Like we make it, but I went from Blockbuster to over there because Chris Nunez got me the job over there
Yeah.
because I was making $5.25 at Blockbuster in 2002,
And you know how
that was $9 an hour over there. But 2002 for a high school kid, that was a lot of money.
Dude,
So you know how
$9
we
flat.
connected, speaking for our love for movies. So we each had nicknames, and mine was the Dude. And Big Lebowski is like one of his favorite movies, and he was like, "Oh, we're gonna get along great."
Yeah, yeah,
There you go,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, dude.
See, that's the universe. Happy accidents.
But I was also a little upset. I was like,
Cart
why do
pushing.
you get to be the dude? Like, because he made
I
up
was
all the
here
nicknames for
first.
everybody. So he self-imposed his nickname, and I looked at mine. It was Crazy White
Hey,
Guy.
you took
Crazy white guy.
when you redid the nicknames, you took Maverick, and I wanted Maverick.
That is true.
Like,
That is
come
true.
on.
Well, I think we all know that I'm
Yeah.
Maverick.
Yeah. Dude, that's, again, happy accidents, man.
Yeah.
Just happened to be pushing some carts together, and now you're making films.
That was it, man.
Yeah.
That was it. No, I still
Oh,
remember the
Greg-
first time
Greg
I
was
saw
there
him and
too.
Greg
Greg was
Gadberry.
also
Which
there.
one's Greg?
Greg's the one over
Rubber
there.
ear?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Greg right there.
So it was me and Greg first, and then Anthony came into our lives, and made it a little bit better.
Then that was it, and then that's Michael Rake right there. I met him at Outback. Then we got Ian and Greg, the jobs at Outback. Adam, I met through another friend that used to be a part of Copy Pot named Jared Hollenbeck, who he's a very missed member of Copy Pot. He just moved away. But I met him through it, and then he moved out to Florida with me to go to film school. He just wanted to go out to Florida. And then Ian, I met in high school. He was a senior, and I was a sophomore. We were in the same math class. So we've all been friends for a really long ass time.
That's awesome. Now that y'all have gone through this whole process, and because at this point it's being released, it's out now.
It's done with its festival run, and because we shot it right before COVID shut down. Like, literally, we shot February 29th and March 1st of 2020. So then once everything shut down, we still wanted some live festival experience, so we pushed off until the next year to release it. And so we did a run in spring and summer of 2021, and then we early birded some few 2022 ones. So our last one was San Antonio Film Festival in July of
amazing
2022. And so
experience,
him and
though,
Ian
man.
and Adam all got to go to that, but that was the official end of so we made it into 11 out of 32 festivals and won 11 awards total, which from our lack of frame of reference, we asked a few of our festival buddies. They're like, no, for like a genre movie, what you're doing, and like that level of, you know, you only entered 32 and made it to 11. Apparently, we had a fairly decent outing. So
I've never been to a film festival. So when you're saying you're submitting your film to a film festival, right? Someone's deciding it's going to be in the festival, and then a bunch of people just go blindly watch movies in theaters, or
sometimes
how does that work?
Yeah, like it's either you got the people coming in blind, or you got the other participants and their family and friends from the festival. But typically, you're going to have at least a few people, just, you know, from the local area, and then, you know, you got your people that just enjoy art house stuff and want to, like, let's go to the local film festival and see what they got, and then they see our fucking movie.
And so y'all were there at the festival watching other people watch your movie.
Yes.
What's that feeling like?
Oh,
man?
That's amazing.
Are you standing in the back of the theater? Are you getting in a seat? What are you doing?
No, we still picked our normal seats, I think, whatever was available, because there's no assigned seating.
Yeah. And are you watching the movie, or are you just looking over your shoulder the whole
I'm doing
movie?
both.
Yeah.
I like watching, but we're waiting for the crowd's response. There's a certain scene in there where we're waiting for a response, and when it happens, if we hear it, we're like, yes.
Did you get all the responses at the moments you wanted, or were there surprise responses, or were you like,
it was
or were you like, they're not doing the thing here? Why not there?
No, they did. They did hit the responses we wanted, and they gave us more responses. We're like, oh, they actually got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that because I didn't get to go to the
San
San Antonio
was
one
the
with
best
them.
one.
Really?
And then because you went to
Was it the best? Was it the best one?
Reaction wise.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
See, that was the one I didn't get to go to. We got to, we missed a lot of
I
them.
wish
but
you would have heard.
We
that.
went to
Like,
the other
I'm
two
talking
Texas.
about everybody. Everybody did that reaction.
Yeah,
It
see,
was
I wish
crazy.
because there it is the one though, because we went to the first one we did was in Lubbock.
I didn't go to that one.
It's, okay, that was the very first one we went to, so that was our first experience of seeing it with a cold audience like that. And they put most time with short films, they put them in blocks of time. So it's like, okay, this 2 hours is going to be 5-6 short films, and then we'll do a feature, and then we'll do another block of like 5 or 6 short films. So you also want to watch that when you're making your movie of runtime. If you're going to make it like 30 minutes, that movie better be fucking great, because they don't want to take up that much chunk of one of their blocks with a short film unless it's really, really good. We kind of wrote a line with ours. We made ours 15 minutes, so that probably hurt us with a few festivals. But that festival particularly, they gave us like almost like their midnight showing kind of thing. We showed after a feature, but not in a block with anything else. It was just like, hey, here's this special presentation at the end of the night of this 15-minute short film or whatever. So that was kind of cool. But that was our first time getting the initial. And so for the first few minutes of the movie, kind of kicks off like one of our sketches. We kind of have like a little From Dusk Till Dawn almost turn, not that specific, but you know, where the movie kind of changes genre almost within it and changes pace. But the specific moment he's talking about, and it's a I won't tell you who or anything, but it's a throat slice, and we're waiting on that moment to happen, because like people were kind of laughing at a couple of the jokes, we're getting a little couple chuckles, but once that, and you get that ooh from everybody, from that point on, everybody was much more reactive to everything else they saw in the movie. Like it's like that one moment kind of legitimized it for the people who weren't quite sure yet, you know. It's hard not to take offense, I guess. Well, you're not really taking offense. You're just getting self-conscious about when you're not hearing anything. But at the same time, I watch things like that. Like the first time I watch a Rick and Morty episode, I don't always laugh really hard that time. I'm intaking a lot of things. And then the next time, I'm laughing my ass off. Like Pineapple Express, the first time I saw that, I thought that was pretty funny. Now, top 5 fucking comedies of all time. I love it.
Dude,
you know?
I've always
I have to make a conscious effort when I go to live comedy shows to remind myself, like, you need to smile and laugh.
Right.
Because the person on stage needs this. They don't know internally in your mind, you're going, that's hilarious.
Right, and I do that. Like, absolutely do that. Like, you know it's funny, and like I think it's funny, but I'm just not reacting that way right now.
Well, like Rick and Morty, when I watch that, I think it's absolutely hilarious. But if you look at me watching it, I'm just deadpan watching it, and then I'll go talk to somebody, and if I'm reciting parts to someone, or if we're like back and forth, like, oh, this part, that part, then I'm laughing my ass off.
Exactly.
But when I'm watching it, dead face, silent.
100%.
And so I have to remind myself when I watch, you know, comedy shows, like, you need to be involved with this because the person on stage needs something to work with.
Yeah.
And so, so this would have been the first time you guys got complete stranger reactions in real time.
For any of our shit,
Yes.
for all the
For
years,
anything, right?
for all the years of doing everything.
That in itself is such a good learning experience, because you're gonna write and record things now with this new information that you have.
Absolutely.
Of like, you know, that thing we thought was going to be like this in the theater, it was actually like this.
Right.
And so that's going to be really great for the future stuff y'all do as well, because you'll just have a new frame of reference of how it's consumed.
And it's a motivation, if nothing else, just to go. It's a drug to go for that reaction again. Like because we're loving doing the music videos, and we are going to continue doing the music videos. But we made a decision this year that we definitely want to get back more into our narrative roots.
Yeah,
now that we've
absolutely.
learned what we have, and the massive production that I say massive for us, the massive production that we put together for Mystery Murder, and now seeing some of the music videos that we've been able to pull off with near the same production value, we kind of know what we can get away with and what we absolutely need. Because some things other people wouldn't think that you necessarily need, like craft service, just having snacks and everything. But when you got a bunch of people that are working for either low rates or no rates for you, like the very least you can do is feed them well and have good stuff. So like we had a lot of people donate, but we never want to lose sight of how we treat anybody. Because I've worked, I guess that was one of my points I was going to earlier when I digressed into Brett Morgan. But like I never want to get so tunnel vision in my own project. 'Cause I've worked with plenty of directors, including on short films, where people out there busting their ass for free, and they get so tunnel vision on like their fucking vision and everything that they lose sight of just treating people well, and that no, you can't do this, you can't do things like that. So we like to make sure that we maintain an environment that people want to come back to and want to be a part of, and recognizing that they're giving us their free time. They don't have the same passion for this project that we do. So we need to have the same passion for them as helping us as we do about the project itself.
Yeah. The more stuff that I work with, the more I've realized this whole thing needs to be a fun, memorable thing for anyone who was a part of it, right? Because you're so lucky that you're getting to make something that's fun.
So fortunate.
Right? Like when you go back to work, well, not in your field because that's what you do all the time anyway, but like a lot of these people, when they go back to a job that is not an artistic endeavor, right? They get to talk about like, oh, Saturday, man, I was helping on this film. And those coworkers are like, you did what? It's like, it's very interesting, and it's very, anyone who gets to do that, you're very fortunate to have something that's fun to do. And so you never want to have it set up to where people are like, God, this was a pain in the ass. It should always be fun. But, that goes back to the money and everything. I think my goal in all of this podcast, everything I want to produce projects in the future where I have enough money that I don't care that I'm losing money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I can just go, I got to produce this vinyl record for a band called Brave Little Hal. That was a live performance. We did audio only, but there's no cuts, there's no edits. We set up microphones all around the cabin. You're hearing this record the way you would sitting there as an audience listening to it. Nice. And it's a one of a kind. We only did it on vinyl record. It's never going to be digitally released. So it's just kind of for their fans who really love them to have a fun side thing.
Okay, yeah.
Only they'll get. It's never going to be we sold 1 million copies, right?
Right.
And but what I realized setting all that up, it's like I got so into the lighting and like getting the drinks and everything set up and the experience of it all, and like making I made some one-off merch that was free for them to just take with them for that night. So there's only the maximum occupancy was like 50 people. So there's only like 50 of those koozies made ever. And there'll never be more made that night.
And that's fucking cool.
And so it's like you want people to go like, I had a fun time Saturday.
Absolutely.
Even if it, like I definitely lost money on all that, but that wasn't the point.
Yeah.
And that's how all this, it's like you're saying, just having food on set, it's like, yeah, that should be the minimum of like, people should be like, oh, there's Chipotle. It's like,
and that's what we did. We actually, day 2, we got individual Chipotle orders for everybody. And then we had a few vegans on set. We made sure that they were taken care of craft service-wise. But then when it came time for meal, I'm like, hey, y'all just look through something around here that y'all dig. We'll make sure our producer goes and gets it for you. And so we made sure that they were all taken care of. We made sure laughs were had. We made sure everybody's voices were heard, whatever their department was. And I actually had a moment at the end of day 2 because we shot this. It's a 15-page script with 8 principal cast members and some special effects makeup, which is a big undertaking. When I tell people who have production knowledge after they see the movie that we shot that in one 11.5-hour day and one 13-hour day, and that includes load in and load out, they're like, holy fucking shit. They assumed it took us like 4 or 5 days. And so to be able to stay on that pace and rock our shit out like that, but also maintain that level of fun and excitement for everybody. We were wrapping out and we're out in the parking lot getting the last few things on the truck, and I'm still just watching people because at that point I'm decompressing because it's like, okay, we got it in the can, now we go to the next steps of this. But I'm also like kind of tearing up a little bit just watching how everybody's still not leaving the parking lot and having beers even though they've been there for over 12 hours.
Everybody's
how good
psyched
of a
about
time
it.
that they had, and that they're proud to be a part of it, and they're like, fucking on, let's go on the next one, and they're all ready to go for that. And like I said, it was very much a summer camp feel, and that's what we wanted to walk away with, but we wanted as much as possible knowing it's not their project, but it became their project. that they were able to take pride in it.
It is their project, though.
Right, and the fact
they'll
that
always go like, I did this thing. I was a part of this
and
thing.
see, I'm so humbled by that, because I'm so grateful for the professional experience and for that they brought to set, but also the attitudes that they brought and just everything they brought to the table. So I'm so humbled and grateful that they consider it their project as well. They take pride in what they did on it. It wasn't just like another job, something like that. So that's what we're always hoping. That, ideally, we were talking about the pipe dream thing earlier. Ideally, we'd like to be able to do all that here. That would be the dream. Even if it was an indie like film label where we mostly did like Romero style independent projects and like early Wes Anderson kind of shit, and we're able to pay it forward and get everybody on that's helped us out throughout this and pay it back in some way of what they've done for us and make it to that level. That would be the real dream.
I can't wait for like 15 years from now when he's like, if I sneeze and I don't have a fucking Kleenex, like, and he's totally flipped.
Like, where's my coffee? Where's my coffee?
He's
I
like,
said 2%.
If we don't, are there no wood hangers for this jacket? I don't put my shit on plastic.
It's fucking tweed, bro.
Oh my gosh!
I think that's the great thing also, that everybody that helps us out, and we always thank them, and their response, I kid you not, every time is like, oh yeah, for sure, you guys are fun.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like,
Biggest compliment we can get. When it stops being fun, we don't want to do it anymore.
Well, now that this one's under the belt, and it's, even though you're still doing the showings with it, but it's technically behind you, like the work's been done for that.
Yep.
So have you started looking forward now to the next one?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm ready.
Absolutely.
Now that you've done this, how many things of this magnitude do you think you could get done in like a year or two?
Well, really, with the music videos we've been doing now, I feel like we could pull off at least 3 or 4 and still maintain.
I think 3 is good.
Yeah, I think 3. I think 3 is fairly realistic and still maintain getting a couple of sketches in and maybe a few more music videos in. But we have ideas rolling around for the next ones that we want to do, and so we're just trying to kind of delegate and figure out how we want to split it up to make sure everybody has something like crucial to do on each one and which ideas we like the best, because we're trying to get better at being honest with ourselves and honest with one another if an idea just doesn't fucking work. Because I don't care what level of writing you're at, like what writer's room you're in, Game of Thrones office, whatever, like 1,000 just fucking awful ideas are going to be thrown out.
Yeah.
Some of them make it through all the red tape and get there. And so we just need to, we maintain, and we're getting better about it by just being honest with each other about that. So I've had several ideas that I've shot down myself and other people have shot down, but we're tinkering around with a few, and I think the goal is to make them each slightly shorter and maybe not quite to this scale production wise, as far as like having 8 people talking at once, maybe making them slightly smaller stories, but still with the same level of production value and quality overall. But that way we can pull off more, but not over, because you have to make decisions like that. Like when we have 5 characters standing on one side of the room and this talking to 2 characters on the other side of the room, the co-director and I, Joe Bannister, we had arguments. Joe, like at some point, wanted them to be able to, I wanted in the long run too, for the characters who were all standing 5 in a row to kind of start staggering Knives Out style and be able to walk around the room. Like, but this requires that amount of coverage to do. This requires that amount. And the bottom line is we have this amount of time and this amount of money to accomplish this. So it's still going to look good if we do it like this. Yes, it could have been a little bit better if we did it like this, but you have to make those choices of like, what's worth it? Do we want to spend that much time doing this and sacrifice the whole second half of the movie and how much time we have for that stuff? Now, I have to do this with directors on commercials all the time, because they'll spend 4 hours on one shot, and I'm like, look, my job as a first AD is to present you with the consequences of your actions. And what I'm saying is the consequences of your actions is you can make this one shot look like Boogie Nights and then not get any of the rest of your shots. Right. Or we can make a Paul Blart and still like cinematic quality and get your fucking Downing commercial out there. And you
the enemy of good is better.
Yeah,
like sometimes we need to commit, and this is the.
And I have to tell gaffers that and DPs, I'm like, look, there's one for the meal and one for the reel. Shoot your fucking reel later. This is for the meal. Let's get them their commercial and get the fuck out of here. Like, we gotta do. And when you're working with this kind of budget and you're also not trying to take advantage of people, then you got to make decisions like that, and we got to get the fuck out of here, get people home.
That's so exciting, man. I think about my old mindset of having a passion that you work on, but I used to think you still keep a day job while you have your passion because it balances you. But then the further I get into these things and then talking to people like you, it's like, no one should ever have a day job. It should just be artistic all the time. So you can, because you have so many ideas, and it's just the only thing you can't get more of is time in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's hard to flesh it out. I'm absolutely guilty of, when I leave here, I got a couple of errands to run, but I'll probably go home and play some video games and watch some movies tonight too. Because, like you still have to maintain some of the level of mental health and not let it break you down, because otherwise your overall work's going to suffer too. Not to say that, I still should be working a little harder on some of the stuff that I am. I fall into that trap as well. And with all of our, like, as a freelancer, our jobs get really stressful. He's got 2 kids and a full-time day job. So does Ian and Mikey. Like, a lot of these guys have multiple kids, full-time jobs of their own. So it's maintaining that balance of pushing ourselves forward while not completely wrecking anybody, which is another advantage of, like, more of these guys directing more and more now. Like Greg Gadberry and Miguel specifically have been directing more lately and are diving more into that side of it. They've always helped on the writing thing, and Greg had directed a couple sketches back in the day. And I think Adam wants to dive a bit more into that, and Mikey wants to start shooting some who have always been classically actors for us, other than, throwing in creatively as well.
How do you think you get to the part where you are able to quit the day jobs? How do you think you get there? I know that's such a loaded question, right?
I mean, where it can pay for my bills, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, what do you think you have to do project wise to get there?
I think we got to hit it with like the way that we have discussed it now, because
short films won't do that, right? That'll get you to those points.
It'll get you to the point. You're not going to make the money on the short film. That'll get you to a point. Like, you can look at some directors. Adam Wingard's not a good example because he had a few big ones, but I can't think of a specific example. But somebody will have be at the helm of a huge movie. I'm like, I don't even know, as a cinephile, I don't even know who this. And I look up their IMDb, and it's just short film, King Kong versus Godzilla, and all of a sudden they just get that leap. So I've talked to the guys about this over the years, because originally DFW is a very big commercial area. So we had discussed going that route and trying to form an LLC and making it just a commercial business. Also, with 8 people, that becomes hard of, like, having roles for everybody where everybody can actually make a living off that company without having to have a side hustle. So given the fact that Joe and Ryan and I are all in the commercial world already, we all do this all the time, we kind of made a decision over the past couple of years after we got done with the short and some of these music videos that we're like, you know what, we're all pretty happy in our day jobs. We're all making a decent living right now, and we'd prefer just to keep going for it on the short, on the feature film and narrative and music video route, rather than becoming another commercial. Nothing against any of that. Make a very lucrative living. You make very pretty stuff, and you can still have some artistic credibility and some commercial world stuff as well. We just decided that that's not what we wanted to do. So for us personally, the way that we're going to make it is either somebody's going to get discovered as an individual. Like, I think Adam has the talent right now to be an actor in the commercial world around here, and to jump as, like, a character in feature films and all kinds of stuff. And I think several of these guys do. I think Miguel does too. So you never know who could get discovered by something we're doing through that, or if one of us gets discovered as a director by whatever project. So either individual success, which I'd root for any of the guys if they got it over me, from one of our projects hitting with something, or we come together Broken Lizard style and make our own Super Troopers, which is the goal, and to get our names out there that way. Because then those guys are off. Jay Chandrasekhar, who directed Super Troopers, you see his name pop up all over old Arrested Development, like all kinds of directs all kinds of shit. And then 2 of the guys, Kevin Heffernan and I forgot who plays Mac, Steve Lemmy, they have their own show, Tacoma FD. So there's ways to split up and still come back together. But I think the way that we do it, with the way that we want to do it, and we've chosen a challenging route, is to hit it with a feature.
That's awesome.
Or a sketch show. We have discussed the sketch show. We've been coming up with ideas for, like, I don't know if you've seen I Think You Should Leave on Netflix, but it's one of the, outside of Chappelle's show, it's one of the best. It's our humor a lot. Okay. So it's a great sketch comedy show. Okay. But there is an avenue for that now. So we have discussed and have been putting together sketch ideas to come up with, like, a show Bible and a potential pilot for that to pitch as well. So I think one of those 2 routes for us to do something together and kind of cross that threshold together, those are our best 2 routes.
That's awesome, man.
And I'd like to do it together. I love all these guys.
Yeah, I would love to.
This is my favorite part of anything, because it's like you have all the options. So there's just all the electricity around, like, wow, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. And that's the most fun, is when you know you're not pigeonholed, that you can do any one of those. And then you have the burden, but the privilege of, like, all right, we got to choose.
Yeah.
We got to choose.
And it's making those decisions about
left or right turn.
Yeah. It's making those decisions about what's truly important to you. And what's truly important to me are my friends and family and these guys. Like, I do want my success in this range, and I want to do it, but I don't want to. I as much as we possibly can, I would like to do it together. So even if that takes some sacrifice on any of our ends from a personal standpoint, I'd like to make that happen as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, I've taken up enough of y'all's time. I really appreciate it. What's the best place for people to follow Coffee Pot Films? Do you guys do mostly Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff? Or
we do Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Yeah. It's all under just Coffee Pot.
All under Coffee Pot Films. If you search it on YouTube, just make sure you put in the films, not just Coffee Pot, because obviously there's a lot of. And same thing with all of them.
It's going to go ahead and type in
Coffee Pot Films. Yeah, and you'll know if you got the right one when you see our little black and white Coffee Pot logo that has a little stone face on it.
And at this point, if they want to watch Mystery Murder,
Very soon. We have Blu-ray copies, so people can get in contact with us about that or a private link. But we are within the next couple weeks, we'll have it up on YouTube. So it'll be free to view.
So by the time this is out,
soon.
it'll probably be on YouTube.
More than likely, we might coincide. We're hoping so. We're hoping so.
All
So
right,
I'll talk to you and we'll get that uploaded. And
and obviously, like if it's out by then, I'll link in all the show notes and everything.
Absolutely, and we've got 3 new music videos that we shot last year at the end of the year that are still going to come out for. Denver Williams, we have one for him. Demont, hip hop artist out of Fort Worth, and then Joe Savage, another country artist out of Fort Worth. All really talented folks. So we got videos coming out for those guys, and then some more coming up.
Going on tour with Mr. Lucci, right?
That's it, man. We are.
That's one of my goals.
I just talked to him the other day actually, and they want to do some more narrative stuff. But they confirmed that they want to do another music video with us real soon.
Cool.
But we're gonna do some like actual like narrative because, like I said, they want to act and they're working on producing a show too. So we're gonna help them out with that as well.
Show's already out on YouTube.
The first episode is, but now they've got like really. I don't want to go into their business too much, but they've got. They're on their way. There's some talented dudes over there. They're on their way.
All right. Well, appreciate it, guys.
No, thank you so much.
Best of luck, and come back on anytime you want.
Really appreciate you.
Love being here.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.